Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Misandry today, the show where we talk about issues relevant to men. Just wanted to kind of touch base for those people who have not tuned into the show before to give you an idea of the format. Pretty much we'll do like a presentation portion, and then toward the end of the show, I'll go ahead and provide an opportunity for a Q&A session. Now, if you're on a PC or you're on Twitch TV, you should see on your lower right-hand corner of your screen every so often, you're going to see what's called a Bukkake Chokeslam, and you're going to earn those from watching the show. You can click the small box on the lower right-hand side with my name on it that will appear occasionally. Click that, choose Redeem Question, and you can ask your question anytime during the stream, and then at the end of the stream, all those questions will be logged, and I will go ahead and hit those questions at the same time. Now, we have a special guest today. We've got the founder of MGTOW.com, which is Keymaster. And so if you have a question for him or for me, make sure in the beginning of the question you direct who the question is to. So if it's to me, just DDJ, and then you ask your question, or if it's MGTOW.com, just MGTOW.com, and then your question. Now, if you're on Roku, or if you're on a mobile device, that's not going to work for you. So what you want to do is during the question and answer session, you want to put question in caps and brackets, and then again, you want to direct the question who it is, whether it's MGTOW.com or DDJ, and then go ahead and ask your question. The only other thing that I would say is that please refrain, if you're using the web interface or like you're on a mobile device, please refrain from asking multi-part questions, because I want to be able to get everybody's question. And if I'm stuck on a bunch of questions because I don't have a production manager like feeding the cat on TFM, I might miss some questions as the chat rolls back. So just want to make sure that that's squared away. Also, once this show is done, I'm going to be doing post-production and, trying to improve the sound quality, things like that. And then I'm going to be uploading it to my YouTube channel, and it will also be mirrored on Bitchute.com, and my videos are going to be mirrored on MGTOW.com as well. So you can go to MGTOW.com and you can watch my entire catalog. And for those people that don't know, MGTOW.com actually has an entire MGTOW video section, and you can go ahead and watch all those videos from different content producers on that section.
Channels.
Yeah, exactly, on those channels, absolutely. Also, my cheers work, I'm a setup for affiliate, but I haven't customized them yet, so I'm still in kind of the process. Again, this is a work in progress. So if you guys want to donate bits, you're more than happy to do so. If you want to subscribe, you're more than happy to do so. Apparently, Twitch says that I'm one of the people that you can do that with now. And then, of course, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Minds, I'm on Gab, I'm on Twitter. I do have a Facebook page for the moment. And when I upload the video to YouTube, I'll have all those links in the description. And then with that, the only thing I would like to say is that my most recent video about the Duluth model and feminist brainwashing, you might want to watch that. It's 15 minutes out of your time. The reason I'm promoting that right now on the channel is because it's an important video to watch, because basically it's feminists admitting that they just made up a lie to create patriarchy theory. So I think that it's important for people to talk about and to learn about, because this is something that feminists have been pushing since the 80s, and it's all bullshit. So, it's an important message. Watch it, check it out, comment on it. Good or bad comments, I'm happy to have both. And then with that, I'm real excited to have Keymaster from MGTOW.com. And so with that, go ahead, Keymaster, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning to you and everyone listening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much.
Right on. Keymaster, so tell me, kind of talk a little bit about, we've talked before, and we've talked on Turd Flinging Monkey stream, but for people that may not have seen that segment, tell me about the origins of MGTOW.com. How did it come about?
Oh, well, we originally, as early as 2010, we had been thinking about doing a men's interest website, and, strictly for men, but more in depth and less mainstream than askmen.com or something like that. We wanted to do like a red pill men's website. And in 2010, I started to conceptualize it, and it was about 4 years in the making, sort of slowly. And we had stumbled across one of Barbarossa's videos on YouTube, where I had heard him sort of say that a lot of men's and MGTOW content and red pill material was being deleted from YouTube, and it really pissed me off to see it. So I reached out to a few people, including A Voice for Men and Barbarossa, and a couple of people online in the community to say, hey, we'd really love to do something like that and bring a solution online where we can archive some of the best of the best. And there was very little response in the beginning, so it had to be sort of a if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't know that, or if they thought that we didn't have the resources or the ability to take on such a thing. So in 2014, the previous MGTOW forums was online, and it was one of the biggest entities, probably the entity for MGTOW content, and it was shut down in January of 2014. And coincidentally, around November, just before that, MGTOW.com happened to be online, and I thought it was an excellent opportunity to get it. It was being auctioned off by the owner or whatever it was, and so we got into a little bidding war with them, because mostly I didn't want it to get into the hands of the wrong people. But interestingly enough, I had reached out to Rob Fetters, sort of an early internet pioneer of MGTOW. He's like part of the reason it appeared as a blip on the Google radar in the first place. And I reached out to him. His work is kind of done, meaning he actually put up a tombstone sort of saying, okay, I've done my work now. Now I pass the torch on. And I reached out to him personally and said, listen, we really are serious about this and we really want to do this. And he said, well, you have my complete blessing to do whatever it is that you want to do. And so we set out to build this archive site, this way of cataloging and archiving some of the great stuff that was, being removed. I mean, I just thought it was so shitty that they took it upon themselves to remove these really great bits of material. And I'd already also taken part in some, for about a year, maybe a year and a half, sort of on the side. I had taken some part in at Yahoo Answers, which was a sort of a Q&A, where you can ask anybody any question.
Right.
And that place was a feminist shithole. That place was a hive, like a crazy hive infested shithole. And the male opinion was just being deleted from there. I actually watched 50 accounts be deleted from there. I'd actually taken part in, in interacting with some people, and they were saying, oh man, you should open a site, you should start a site. And I started getting, fan mail to do this. And it just seemed like something that had to be done. So took it upon ourselves to grab MGTOW.com, and we went back and forth on the guy, mostly so that we could lay claim to it before someone else did, before the wrong people did. And we ended up getting it. And then on April the 6th, we kind of opened the doors. Prior to us, it was a very cheesy, non-member based site. It was one page with like 5 links. It had maybe 3 YouTube videos on it, and a really, really sparse, and I don't mind saying a little ugly page on it. And then all of a sudden, one day we did this really nice presentation where you could add yourself to a mailing list and be notified. And it had a countdown timer to the day we were going to open. And everyone was like, oh my God, what's going on with MGTOW.com? What the fuck is going on? And then we opened our doors without a forums, by the way. There was no forums. And then a big influx. We started pulling, sort of hand pulling content from here and there to start this archiving of good stuff, where people could go to one place and we hand selected, 3 from Barbarossa, 2 from Stardust, and on key points for MGTOW.com. So you could go to MGTOW.com and you could see a really nice presentation of a bunch of 250 videos or whatever, so that somebody could get MGTOW.com and understand what it's about. And we wanted to be a hub of all of this stuff. And so
Well, and to cut
before,
in here, just to cut in here for a
yeah, go
second,
ahead, cut in,
you
go
know,
ahead.
so one of the things that's important is that, you know, it's funny you mention that, because I've been on MGTOW.com, I think, since 2015,
Uh-huh.
and I've always seen it as a hub. I mean, even before I identified truly as MGTOW, which was shortly after I hit the site,
Uh-huh.
you know, I looked at all the other stuff that was out there on the internet, and I found MGTOW.com to be the most credible site out there that provided the most unbiased, educated opinion from men across a variety of demographics. You know, it wasn't just you know, the
Yeah,
TFLers or
it's
the
men
neckbeard. It was
first.
professionals as well. Right.
Yeah, thanks. It's men first, and then men going their own way next. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not just MGTOW stuff. It's men first, and then men going their own way, and all of the things that sort of relate to that. Um, I was I was we did not have the actually the reception that I was hoping for. The waters were very quiet when we first showed up on the scene, and somebody from A Voice for Men reached out to us twice. As a matter of fact, within the first week or so, at least within the first month, we had two offers to buy the site from us, anonymous offers to buy the site from us once it was acquired. And I had asked them to say, I said, well, who are you? Are you affiliated with the Red Pill Men's Interest website on the net? Do you think that you can do a job like this? What are you capable of doing what we are setting out to do? And there was no response back from that. It was like they were trying to acquire it to get rid of it.
Right.
Or
Well,
or
when I created my Misandry .happens@gmail website or email address and account, I couldn't make the Misandry Today account because somebody already had it. So I can confirm that there are people on the internet who are trying to take men's issues and men's subject matter and like
oh
URLs
yeah,
and things. They're buying them and they're killing them.
yeah. And I told them, I said, unless you have some kind of, I want to see what you have in mind before I would even consider this, And we hadn't even started yet. Basically, we were in our first month, but they could see we meant business. This was not just some crappy web page that was up. This was now, you could join. There was a red pill quiz, and there was a bunch of stuff that was relevant, and they could see what it was going to become, and they tried to take it down, tried to acquire it for themselves. And I said to them, well, why didn't you bid on it when it was for sale? And so that made me realize that they were not interested in acquiring it. They were interested in taking it away from someone. So before we knew it, within the first 3 months, I got a shitload of requests to create a forums, and we were never going to do that, but we did. And 3 months exactly, 3 months and 1 day afterwards, the forums opened, and that is when you start to see that huge cultural surge on Google Trends. It just started to spike upward. In fact, MGTOW within the first week went 1,300%, skyrocketed 1,300% in Google searches.
Damn.
Yeah, no, you should have seen it. It was a complete vertical line. That first spike that you see after July 7th, 2014, was a overnight 1,300 increase in when we did our Happily Ever After trailer, theatrical trailer, or we wanted to do something with a bang, that would look really good. And so we took that 9-gag, that 9-gag picture that said, once upon a time, a prince asked a beautiful princess to marry him, and the princess said no. And then he rode motorcycles. He rode motorcycles and went to titty bars and drank milk from the carton and left the toilet seat up.
Right.
How the prince lived happily ever after. So created a completely over the top intro trailer for this, which was a blast to make. Actually, it was a complete riot to make it, and took like 2 weeks, and then just put that online, and everyone just kind of went nuts for it, and then they could see we were really, we were trying to have fun with it too, because you don't want it to be downer either. It's really kind of up. It's really kind of more upbeat than a lot of people think, and there are a lot of positives about it. And so we started with that, and to make an impact, and it worked. And then the forums opened, and it just skyrocketed from there, you know?
Yeah. And I have to say that is one of the things that I appreciate about MGTOW.com. I like the section where you've got the posters, the memes, and the quotes, because
Yes.
not all of them are like the serious quotes. A lot of them are just, they're the whole 4chan pull Kekistani trolley quotes
Yes.
that
There's
spew
lots.
MGTOW and red pill truths. They're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah, I have some fun with it. As a matter of fact, it's time to. I'm happy to be working on an overhaul of a lot of the sections of the site right now. So we're constantly renovating and trying to make it better. The channels, the chat, we couldn't keep up with hand selecting this stuff from YouTube. I was grabbing one and grabbing another, and I realized it would take me 45 minutes to put this on the site and and add something to it, and then I figured out how we might pull the whole channel down. And so that's how we have an ever-growing library of real channels here that are really good. So somebody can go to one place, and they don't have to rely on YouTube sort of force-feeding them from the trough. Oh, we suggest this video, and we suggest this video. No, we want them to go and get their red pill fix in an environment where they're not disturbed, and
Right.
they're not distracted. You can see it all at once.
And
So
if I understand correctly,
sorry.
Yeah, if I understand correctly too, you can actually back up YouTube videos right on your site, correct?
Well, we haven't made that public yet, but
Okay.
there is a way. There is a way to, like, for example, I have a pretty good idea, and I haven't been wrong yet, of what kind of video will disappear. And if something is really groundbreaking or potent or relevant or hard hitting, I've created a mechanism so that when we pull the video down, we also pull an archive copy down just in case. So in the case of, what was his name now? Marcus Brown. You know Marcus
Right.
Brown on Twitter?
Yeah.
He did a really great video early on, which sort of talks about MGTOW being it's kind of an underground thing, which I completely disagree with, by the way, and how it's going to be a cultural. He was really early in his assessment of saying, well, it's underground now, but it's going to really explode. And he did a really great video on that. And sure enough, that video went, and I had the foresight to be able to pull it. And I would have been kicking myself if we didn't keep that.
Exactly.
I contacted him and I said, we have an archiving mechanism here, but I want you to be okay with it. And he was like, yeah, take it, keep it, put it on the site. And so we did. So some of the videos there are permanent. And it's really important that they're permanent, because the best thing that happened sort of culturally is that women have kind of revealed themselves online, and they treat the internet like their personal diary, and they've actually done men a great service by doing it. And so the worst thing men can do is develop some case of amnesia, when they start playing nice again. And
they lose out on that institutional knowledge.
Yes, we have a good archive that'll remind people what the situation was really like 3 years ago. I mean, you're already starting to see it kind of die down a little bit, and feminists have become interestingly quiet lately, and we're not seeing as many of them. We started out getting maybe 3 hate mails a month, like real vicious stuff. You should see the first one that I sent you, like really insane, probably the most hateful shit I've ever seen typed out anywhere was sent to us in the first month or two, and we would get like 2 or 3 of these a month, like just some, a feminist actually signed up 9 times in one day when we had about 400 members. He signed up 9 times in one day with enormous threats like, you are going to be hacked. This will never take off. And you might as well just throw in the towel now, like really vicious shit.
And the thing that surprises me about that, just to kind of interject here, the thing that surprised me about that is it's men going their own way. It's not, I mean, MGTOW has never been an activist movement or, any kind of like political thing. It's going their own way. It's saying, look, we're just going to go do our own thing. You go do your own thing, and we'll call it a day.
Even more importantly than that, a lot of it is playing their own content back for them. It's not even taking the content and doing anything with it or butchering it or criticizing it. A lot of it is just playing it back for them and saying, look at this shit that is broadcast on television. And then you play it back for them and they have a really big problem. They start to see what men see when we look at it. Like today on Twitter, about half an hour ago, this woman said, this kind of feminist in shitty Tina Fey glasses said, I hate that song, Santa Baby. The horror of that song, Santa Baby. It just gets worse every time, and I think it's the worst Christmas song ever. And it makes my ears bleed. And you kind of think about it and go, well, what is she really saying there, right? Horror is actually how she has a problem with how some women get houses, yachts, cars, and rings by just playing coy. You know, she has a problem with the fact that some women use their sex appeal to get exactly what they want, and it's not working for her. So you see exactly what they say, and you just play it back for them, and it starts to have it has a different meaning, and they're not laughing anymore. You know, that Wendy Williams clip where, you know, this studio audience and Wendy Williams are getting together to plot you know, not taking their birth control pills to trap her husband into having a second child when he already said he didn't want another one. You know, that is completely unforgivable. That is one of the worst things I've ever seen. That's the worst nonviolent thing you can do to a man, is trap him into fatherhood without his knowledge or consent, and then say, oops, you know, you have to live up to your responsibilities now. It is a widespread attitude of general female social, widespread, and everybody joins in on the laughter and the clapping and all of that stuff. But when you play it back for them, they start to see how insane it is. And that's all we're doing, just playing it back for them.
And to kind of interject on that point, I actually was having a conversation with some second wave feminists that oppose third wave feminism. And they tried to bring up that same argument. They're like, oh, well, you know, the man needs to be responsible for his child and this and that. I'm like, look, men have no paternity rights. They have no choice if, you know, they want to keep the kid or not keep the kid or whatever. And if she sperm jacks you, and sperm jacking happens a lot.
My God. It's huge. Happens. I have a story about that myself.
So go for it.
No. Well, I just, you know, if you don't stop me, I'll just ramble.
Well, let me finish my point then, and then I'll let you
go
ramble.
ahead.
So we were having this conversation, and I was like, look, what about these fathers that are tricked into fatherhood? Because, you know, and again, hashtag shill alert, in my book, The Feminist Lie, there's a reference to a study or a survey that was done where 41% of women said they lie about being on birth control. And during the stream last night, TFM was talking about that he had found some information that basically shows that like 50% of women lie about being on birth control.
Oh,
and then
and I have over Slate. It was all over Slate a few years ago when they were, you know, how women lie to get pregnant. I actually have that Tom Leykis show where he's reading it off the page from slate.com.
Right. And I have a whole section of how women sperm jack men, like the techniques they use, the types of things, and how sophisticated they can get. And in one case, the woman sperm jacked her boyfriend, and then she went to the sperm bank and she forged his signature and had his sperm frozen. And then when they broke up 3 months later, she went back to the sperm bank, had herself impregnated, and said, oh, hey, you're a father. And he's like, how the hell did that happen? And then he was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do this. She trapped him in with the kid. He found the receipt later because he was cleaning the house. And then he's like, holy shit, you forged my signature. And I mean, it was like a total entrapment. She wanted his resources. She wanted him to marry her. There was nothing he could do. So, you know, sperm jacking, for those people who don't know, that happens all the time. And it's a serious issue. And it's not one that is going to go away anytime soon because of unrestrained female hypergamy. And with that little tangent rant out of the way, go ahead and carry on.
Well, I have a story about that myself where I met this girl in 2008, and there was something kind of behind her eyes that wasn't right. And she was kind of all over me in a way that I had not seen before. Like, she was way too fragrantly sexual and way too soon. And
so she was cluster B hypersexual.
I wouldn't say that. Well, I wouldn't call her slutty, but I would.
No. I said cluster B hypersexual.
Yeah, but her interest in me was stronger than it should have been, too quickly. And we were 3 weeks in. I had dated her maybe 4 times in 3 weeks, and we're having breakfast outside on the sidewalk cafe, where you can get brunch outside or whatever. And she said, "Well, I guess we're in a relationship now," And I asked her my middle name. I said, what is my middle name? And where did I go to school? And how many musical instruments do I play? And what are they? And where was I born? Like, how can you think you're in a relationship with somebody you know nothing about? Like, I think it's really mentally sick, to be in a relationship, in less than 3 months. I mean, Taylor Swift writes songs about breaking up after 3 months.
Right.
She shouldn't even be in a relationship in the first place.
Well, and here's the thing: like, if all you're doing is fucking the chick, or all she's doing is fucking you, you're not in a relationship. You're hooking up. I mean, if you can't have a conversation with her, or you can't have like some kind of meaningful dialogue, it's crazy.
A lot of people sleep together and then they think they're in a relationship now. It's like really bad. I had to explain this to her. I said, listen, it doesn't work like this. But going back to sperm jacking, she was, one night she was really into me, and I said, you know what, I came from the gym, I need a shower, and she was like, no, let's do it right now, and I was like, no, man, I can't. And she kind of forced herself on me, okay? And I'm actually uncomfortable telling the story. She kind of forced herself on me. She blew me, and I ejaculated in her mouth. And then she went into. Can I say this? Is this a PG show?
No. You say whatever you need to say. This is an adult show.
Okay, I want to make sure that I'm not going to get.
You're good.
Okay, so and then she disappeared into the bathroom, and she was in there for suspiciously long. And I thought to myself, all of a sudden I became flush, and all my blood ran from my head, and I thought, don't tell me she's like trying to fertilize herself in.
Right. That's fucked up.
No, I'm not kidding. I know.
It's
completely horrible. And this is before MGTOW. This was 2008 or 2009.
Right.
But I had seen, that international symbol for marriage. You know the one I'm talking about. It's like a stick figure cartoon, and the guy is kneeling down, and he's holding up his credit card, and she's standing over him, tapping her feet with her hands on her hips. Okay, that I happened to see online while she was sitting next to me, and I laughed my head off, and I pointed at it. I don't know where I saw it, MySpace or someplace. I don't remember where it was at the time. I saw it online, and I'm laughing at it, and she didn't think it was funny at all. She realized that I swear to God, she saw me laughing at that image. And when she left that night, I never saw her again, because she knew I was sort of a red pill guy. She wasn't going to get away with her shit with me. And I never saw her again.
So that was like her last ditch effort then.
Yeah, yes. And I think about it now, and I think, oh my God, I've had some really close calls, man. I've had some close calls.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, when you're young, dumb, and invincible, you really want to spread your seed. You want to fraternize with the ladies. And
well, fortunately, I was older than most of them. I went out some, quite a few younger women, and they thought that they were outsmarting. They were like 19. I was already in my 30s, and I had a lot of experience already. And I remember one girlfriend was there, and we talked about the pill, And I think there was some show online, some Maury Povich show on TV or something. And I said, I don't ever want to hear oops from you. And this is way before any online kind of, this is like, 2003 maybe. And and I said, I never want to hear that. Do we need to talk about this, or are you going to be responsible? And she was like, oh, I would never do that. I would never do that. And something in me just said, I cannot. They say it, but they don't. They're the first to do it. They're the first to do it. So I was really strict about that. And I basically said to her, I laid it out. a couple of times I've done this. I look them in the eye and I say, if you allow yourself, you know, to get pregnant and you oops me, I'm going to be pissed.
Right.
So
You're going to
don't
get a
try it.
helicopter ride.
Yeah, don't try it, you know. And I needed them to be honest with me, and there was some kind of like I would say, well, maybe you get my money, but you will never, you and your child will never see me again. So don't even think about trapping me in there. And they're like, oh my God, I would never do such a thing, you know. And I know that they would. I absolutely know that they would. I don't take that at face value anymore. So
Well, you know, the problem is it a woman's loyalty is what she feels at that moment because they're emotional thinkers. So she might be absolutely loyal to you for 3 or 4 days, but the second that her hormones shift or the second that she changes her mind for whatever reason, it's like she was never loyal. It's whatever's going on in their head right there at that point.
well, that's
That's
why
their whole reality.
that's why I say that every time a woman says something to you and she makes a declaration, always append it with the words "right now." So
Right.
mentally, whatever she comes out of her mouth, add the words "right now" at the end. So when she says "I love you," she means "I love you right now," or "for now," you know, or "I really see us being together for now," or I you know, or "I really I, whenever she makes a declaration like that, mentally append it with the words "right now," and you begin to realize that her whatever it is that she's saying is only temporary. That's all it is.
Exactly. So to bring you full circle back around to, we were talking about kind of the origins of MGTOW, and you kind of touched on the idea that there was like this feminist that had targeted MGTOW and tried to make an account 9 times. Um, can you kind of talk a little bit about how feminists have targeted the website and kind of some of the things that have happened?
Oh yeah. We had you know, well these days we get nothing from them. Nothing. We get no hate mail at all. As a matter of fact, I look
But
forward to
that's
about
because you guys are fucking badasses compared. I mean, I remember what you guys had to go through. I want to educate the people listening and the people watching the stream. But holy shit, I mean, those guys came at you relentlessly. And so, you know,
yes.
yeah, talk about what they did. Talk about what your crew's response was. Tuna Patrol, Litterbox, all that, so that
Right.
guys
So
know what's going on.
we had like 2014 was brutal, and it was brutal when we first appeared on the scene, and we got a lot of hate, like 2 or 3 hate mails, you know, and we still get maybe 2 a year now. Like just some, you know, some. As a matter of fact, most of the hate mail, if there is any, and I'm not kidding here, if there is any, they come from like manginas. They don't come from women. They come from guys. They're like, you're just a bunch of losers, and you know, and that sort of thing. They don't come from women anymore. We actually get fan mail from women. They write in and they say, I think it's fantastic, and and the response is the same, with gratitude. You know, thank you very much, and we receive a lot of letters of appreciation from women just like you, and thanks very much. Have a great weekend. You know, and
Right.
but at the beginning it was so heinous and ugly. The first hate mail I actually have it framed here somewhere. I mean, it's 3 paragraphs of insanity, and I can't even imagine writing something so hateful. And uh, it started out like that in the beginning, and then in 2000, some guy,
You cut off what year?
2015,
Okay.
some guy showed up underneath a comment, and he signed up on the site, and just sort of left. And he signed up, and he left us with like a pretty big threat, like a really, really bad threat, and littered the mailbox all night long. Like he left some really brutal threats, and none of which came through, by the way. And
Yeah,
he was mocked.
cucks don't follow through unless there's like a group of them.
He was mocked. I mocked it. Whatever he sent to us, he got mocked back, and mocked and belittled, and like, what's your problem? What actually is you have filled up our mailbox all night long, but you have not said what your problem with us is. Why can't you do that? Why can't you point to one specific thing that you have such a huge problem with, and frame it and say, here, this is categorically wrong. This is, this is what I have a problem with. He wasn't able to do that. The following year, the site, for about 13 months, the site was getting vandalized. They were somebody actually tried to vandalize the search, so that when you pressed it, when you typed in a search and you looked for a search term, a feminist poster came up as a result. It was
so they were trying to so they were trying to hack the site.
Yeah, they were trying to hack the site, and we had a very open concept at the beginning, so that every member who joined, I didn't know how successful it was going to be. We had no idea how successful it was going to be. So we had every member who could join could post in the forums automatically, and every member who could, we didn't screen them or anything. We didn't, the previous MGTOW forums required you to, leave a mandatory intro, and it was based on acceptances. And I was myself banned from there twice, and I have no idea why. Still to this day, I have no idea why, but I found it to be a very inappropriate reception. And the guy who was running it called himself Nacho Vidal, and he was a real hard ass the way he ran the show.
I remember Nacho. I remember him back in the day on different forums. So yeah, go on.
And he was a very, very rigid hard ass. And I said, well, okay, there's two things that we're not going to do. We're going to keep it an open concept, and if we have to lock it down, then we have to lock it down. But for start, I'm going to make feminists the reason why we have to tighten it up. I'm not going to do it just to be a control freak. We're going to make them. They're going to have to get so out of hand before we do anything about it, right? And that's what happened. They got so out of hand that we completely rebuilt our member system and our method for joining, and you wouldn't just be a participant anymore willy-nilly, and so that really got rid of it when we redid it, and we redid our approach, and that really did it. So if they get it into their heads that they're going to come into the site, they can't be a participant right away, and that's just the end of the story. And if anybody has a problem with that, we can say, well, you can thank all the women who did not understand what for men only mean. Right. It's not our fucking problem that they can't read that,
Right.
So, and then I also wanted to make sure that that intros were not mandatory. So I wanted to keep it really open, and as open as possible. Unfortunately, we had to tighten it up a bit. But the intros are so voluntary and so great. They're really, really great. The intros that the guys leave, you can hear their relief and their delight in their introductions, and they're all very well written too. Like, these guys are. I mean, what's amazing to me is these guys will show up there and they'll leave an introduction, and they'll start with an apology. Oh, I'm sorry for English is not my first language, And I'm thinking to myself, this is a site for men. And they come here and they can say whatever they want, and they can have and the first thing they start with is an apology. Well, why doesn't a woman who come here who is not even welcome say she's sorry? Why does a guy who is welcome, who has near perfect English, by the way, start out with an apology? Now, where does that come from? Where a guy will say, I'm sorry, my English isn't perfect. Well, his fucking English is better than my Japanese, I can tell you that, right? And so he writes the introduction in English, and it's really quite impressive how they do that, and it's a real testament to the need for this sort of thing.
Well, and a lot of these guys have been gaslit by their wives, by their girlfriends, by the women who've been romantically involved in their.
By Walt Disney.
Right, exactly, and. So all these things have happened, so they feel like they have to apologize. And, it's actually kind of funny, too, because I've read a lot of those introductions, and almost every one of them's like, I'm not alone. Holy shit.
Yes,
I'm home.
every second
I've
one
arrived.
of them they're all like that. Yeah, I thought I was living on an island for 30 years. I'm so glad I'm not. And, thanks very much for being here and all of that. That's the person we created the site for. That's exactly who we created the site for. Knowing that someone will come here and they will either embrace their monitor and say, I'm home, this is great, or they'll run for the hills. And I don't care about those people. I care about the ones that come here and say, "Holy shit, this is exactly what we needed," you know.
Right on. Well,
And
talk a little bit about the tuna patrol and the litter box.
oh, the litter box is really important. Actually, we created the litter box, and it's an example of sort of what not to do. And there's a lot of fun in it as well. But the litter box forum is really sort of a receipt, or many receipts of the kind of shit we have to deal with. And the further you go back into it, the further you'll see some threads by women that they've created, and by detractors, and by manginas and cucks, and whatever word you want to use. These kind of apologetic, self-loathing people that come in there to give MGTOW a rap, and a bad rap. And many of them, I mean, we even had plants in 2015 from the likes of the BBC.
Holy shit.
Oh, you didn't know about that? Oh,
no. I mean, I knew about. I mean, I was going to get into the news piece earlier or later, but yeah, tell me about that.
Oh no, they had They did a documentary on MGTOW, and they called it MGTOW Men at War. Okay, now this is a real 3-part documentary on the BBC.
Holy shit!
It is a real 3-part documentary on the BBC, produced by somebody named Reggie Yates. Reggie, REGGIE YATES. Reggie Yates.
Okay.
And he set out to, MGTOW Men at War. Well, right in the title, that's bullshit. Right in the title, the whole point of MGTOW is not to be at war. It's to drop our shields and not even show up on the battlefield. So I don't know why he's talking about MGTOW Men at War, okay? So this MGTOW Men at War documentary, they never reached out to us, by the way. They never once reached out to us, but our forums started filling up with these people from the UK, and the hits and the visits from the UK were astonishing. I even IP checked some of them, and they came from like some government office or something, or some, I forgot what it was, but I actually zeroed in on the IP on Google. You know how you can see the buildings, and
exactly.
It showed
when you do the IP
search,
search,
some news organization or something like that. It was quite remarkable, actually. And they came into the forums and they started to drop violence and to try and make MGTOW look bad. They wanted to validate their own documentary on MGTOW Men at War. So they had some plans, and of course I cannot prove that it was the BBC. Okay, maybe it was an associate or something like that. But
sure, subcontractors.
They were coming from the UK, one after the other, dumping this shit in the forums about tying women to the kitchen sink and beating them, and know their place. And they really wanted to make us look like men at war.
They were trying to basically false flag you guys.
Yes, exactly. False flag. That's exactly the term I was looking for. And we would have none of that. We would have none of that. And so the Litterbox forum was them just being thrown out on their ass. You can't come in here and say, women are evil cunts, and they should be. Once again, excuse me to the audience, but you can't just do that. You can't just. That's just wrong. It's completely. It's completely. It's the antithesis of MGTOW, right? Like
exactly.
We don't want to tie women to the kitchen sink and have them make sandwiches and show them their place. We let them know that the door is open and they can. It's really, really the big difference, right? So this wasn't working. This wasn't working in line with their Men at War documentary. And interestingly enough, they never reached out to us for an opinion, but they did reach out to Roosh, Roosh V at ROK, and a couple of other Manosphere sites.
And for those that don't know, ROK is returntokings.com. Just FYI.
Yes, returntokings.com. And actually, I have a story to tell you about that as well. So jot that down on right now.
Okay.
And so they had this Reggie Yates personally for who did this documentary. He personally showed in his documentary screenshots and animations from our site. But what he did was he zeroed in on some of the really harsh quotes that he found on YouTube, not from our site. He didn't find anything on our site because he knew we were kicking these people out. So he couldn't use us as an example because the Litterbox exists to point people to references that we will not tolerate, right? So the Litterbox is a really good receipt of the kind of things that MGTOW are not about and that will not be tolerated. And it's really important that people understand it. And so that we don't have to explain it again, there's a receipt of all of this stuff. I can point to it. So when somebody shows up and they start saying things like women need to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen and all that stuff, I'm just like, you know what? You're on the wrong site. You can go to controllingwomen.com. Why don't you go register it? It's available. Why don't you go over there? Because we have no interest in that. And so here's the fun part. Okay, this is the punchline. So Reggie Yates did this 3-part documentary called MGTOW Men at War, and he zeroed in on our site to show animations and stuff, but he actually pulled some radical quotes, I suppose, from YouTube, which he found and he searched for. He tried to find, some sort of radical ideas on YouTube, but he didn't find them on our site. He stayed away from us. And the punchline is, you can Google Reggie Yates canceled his wedding plans to the award. He bought her a ring, actually. Before he did, this is the fun part. Before he did his documentary on MGTOW, about 8 months before that, it was New Year's Eve, he flew his girlfriend, his fiancée down, or his girlfriend down to Rio de Janeiro, and he designed a ring, and he proposed marriage on a beach in Rio or something. There's a story about that, where he designed his custom ring. And after he did the documentary on MGTOW, after he canceled his wedding plans. So you can actually Google Reggie Yates cancels wedding plans to T Award.
That is
and
fucking
you will
hilarious.
find, yes. And you know what his excuse was? Because he weirded out. He weirded out, which is such bullshit. He actually owes us a letter of thanks.
Right.
We saved him from making the biggest mistake of his life. So, I mean, do you see the humor in this? MGTOW Men at War.
The irony is fantastic.
It's fantastic, and he did it right after his documentary. I think it was. I think he either proposed to her in the December. He did the documentary, I think, summer and August, and then by Christmas his wedding plans were off. And oh my God, we mocked the shit out of that guy. So he owes us a letter. He owes MGTOW a thank you, actually, and that's a thank you that will never come. But that's just one example of, how his documentary, he red-pilled himself in a way, right? He should have come out and said, I'm calling off I'm calling off my wedding because of what I learned in the process of making that documentary.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about the Tuna Patrol and about kind of, the volunteer work that they do on the MGTOW forums.
Oh, this is really tremendous, actually. The guys have been really terrific, especially a handful of members that, will email us day or night when they call them tuna, tuna trap, tuna, the tuna hunt, the tuna net. And
right.
They have like a way of identifying, and we've been really, it's quite amazing actually how women reveal themselves, even when they try to pass themselves off as a man. They can't do it. They can't pull themselves off. But the site is designed in such a way that we ask them before they join to say that they're a man of honor when they join, and they click the little checkbox to join and say, I'm a man of honor. I'm 18 and I'm a man in my word. And that's a requirement when they join, so that when if by any chance they happen to be lying and they come in there and they're a woman, or they're a feminist or whatever, troll who thinks she's so clever, they get immediately booted because they gave, by agreeing, they said that they were a man and their word is honorable. So when we find out that they were full of shit, they're immediately booted, and they end up wasting their time. So the community has been really terrific about making sure that this shit doesn't go on, and notifying us and looking out for our best interests. And it's actually quite amazing how in a few posts they always reveal themselves. But it's well designed because it doesn't work unless they reveal themselves. In other words, even if a woman can sneak in there, well, she I suppose she can, right? She can. I mean, how do we really verify it? You know, we don't ask
Right.
people to drop their pants, you know. But
Yeah. Sheila?
yeah, we don't ask them to identify themselves that way or anything. And I suppose if they wanted to, they could. But it only works. They only achieve something if they say, "Guess what, guys? I'm a woman, so ha." You know. But even then, they just get kicked out. So it doesn't work unless they reveal themselves, and they won't reveal themselves. You know, it's kind of clever that way. So they've left us alone, and the waters have been very still lately.
Well, and I have to say that as far as the Tuna Patrol is concerned, the guys that participate in that, they are fantastic at investigative posts and cross-examining these people.
Oh,
and
yes.
I've watched it, and it is fantastic.
They can pull apart sentences and read between the lines and absolutely tell whether she's female or male just by the way that she argues. Yeah, and
Right, right.
it's really true. You can they'll pull a quote out and they'll say a man would never say this. They'll actually pull out a quote and say a man would never phrase a sentence that way. A man does not argue like this, and it's really true. And sure enough, she exposes herself in like 2 or 3 or 5 comments. So you can tell who's genuine and who isn't. You know, it's really quite incredible. And that's just in typed words. That's just in typed words. And, you know, you need tone of voice. And like, for example, if I make a sarcastic comment on the internet, "Oh, you're really smart. Yeah, you're so clever," right? Now, if I type those words, "Oh, you're so smart and clever," you can't tell what I mean by that either. You know, you can't tell whether it's sarcasm or whether or not I'm being genuine. It sounds like it's written like a compliment, right? You're so smart and clever. But it requires tone of voice to be sarcastic. I have to say it like this. I have to say, "You're so smart and clever. Oh yeah, sure." You know, that's the only way that it works is sarcasm. And women are unbelievably sarcastic. So you can way more than men, way more. So if you, even without tone of voice and body language, still determine whether somebody's male or female just by the way they ask a question. Or
it's the tonal language of their verbiage choice and word and sentence formation. Absolutely. So moving on, you talked a little bit earlier about Reggie Yates and the BBC.
Yes, that was tremendous. That was tremendous.
And I know that other news outlets have reached out to MGTOW.com for a variety of, you know, hit pieces. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, one of my favorites is actually, remember when I was telling you about sending their own material back to them when I said, you know, playing their own material back? Okay,
the Daily
so
Mail,
there was,
right.
Yes, the Daily Mail, it has just an epic one in the Top Gun forum. The Top Gun forum is sort of where we kind of sort of pin some of the best and most poignant ones, really good threads that touch on certain topics. And there happened to be one, MGTOW, the Daily Mail finally contacts MGTOW.com, and a writer wrote to us. It's actually the highest rated post, which I did not notice. It has 74 stars, thumbs up. But
nice.
Hi, I'm a journalist. This came from 2017, August 13th. Hi, I'm a journalist working for the Daily Mail. I'm writing a piece about MGTOW. Now, first of all, she's female, so who gives a shit about the female opinion on me? I mean, how do you even listen to that? You know, I just don't even. What are you doing? Writing a piece about MGTOW that's got nothing to do with you. I just find that staggering, the way that women talk about MGTOW on a topic that they really are just not permitted to have an opinion on, whether they have one or not. But I'm going to read the email. Hi, I'm journalist at the Daily Mail. I'm writing a piece about MGTOW, and it would be great to speak to someone who could provide some insight and perspective for the piece. Thank you, name withheld, okay? Hello and good afternoon, name withheld, and thank you for contacting. For insight and perspective, you can certainly start here, and then I send them a link to the Daily Mail, and here,
Nice.
and here, and here. So I'm sending them links to their own stuff, and one of them is how seeing men upset makes women happy. How
Right.
the ego epidemic that women suffer from, the "Where Have All the Good Men Gone" articles, and why men are truly the weaker sex. I send her these 4 links, and the Daily Mail, and then I said the Daily Mail publishes some of the best MGTOW content available anywhere. Otherwise, please let us know how we can be of assistance. Still have questions? Feel free to send some over.
Fantastic.
A very pleasant weekend to you. Thank you, MGTOW.com, and going their own way. And I never heard from them again. And so they took it upon themselves to take another approach. And instead of saying, we asked MGTOW, instead of having the journalistic integrity to say, we asked MGTOW for some material for the piece, and they sent us our own schlock back, they should have said that. They didn't. They took it upon themselves to write it, take it another angle, and that's exactly why you can't take them at face value, because they really didn't have any genuine intent in the first place. They didn't really want to. They're not prepared to publish their own content as a response, and say, well, if you want to know why men are going their own way, fucking read your own stuff. Look at your own stuff. Look at Huffington Post. Look at your section on making a case for the starter husband. Are you kidding me? Making a case for you're actually recommending that women go out there and get themselves a starter husband? I mean, there is no question of why MGTOW is a culturally exploding phenomenon. There is no question at all, and even they know why. So it's unforgivable that Huffington Post has a section entirely dedicated to starter husbands and making a case for the starter marriage. I mean, there's a section dedicated to that. It's just unbelievable. When a woman asks me, are you married, or how do you feel about marriage, which is a very common question, how do you feel about it? A really effective answer is to say, I don't believe in divorce. It doesn't answer her question directly, which, by the way, I think is very important. Don't never answer a woman's question directly unless the answer is no. But when they say, how do you feel about marriage? I would say, well, now, right there, you just watch her reaction. And if she's slightly irritated by that answer, she's not marriageable, for starters. She should be charmed by that answer. She should say, I don't believe in divorce either. I think marriage is wonderful, but they don't. They want a divorce. They want the divorce. They want the payout in the divorce. They're looking for a man they can divorce. Not one to be married to. They're looking for one to divorce. It's kind of sick, actually. It's really sick.
It really is. And that leads me to another thing. I know we were talking a little bit the other day, and we were talking about, I'm of the belief that because women are in the workplace and, women work for companies that I do business with, that you need to be able to communicate with women to get what you need. And so, my whole philosophy is that you avoid relationships, you don't avoid women. But obviously, you don't want to create a relationship with a woman because of the cost-benefit analysis associated with that. So talk to me about kind of how, because I talk about ghosting in plain sight, trying to blend into the background, making conversations with women and trying to be forgettable.
Well, everybody
kind of give your feedback about that.
Everybody here is aware of the existence of the PUA community, okay? And they are, most guys that have spent any time online and if they're a MGTOW already, they probably already came across PUA materials, pickup artist materials, and how to be successful with women and all that kind of crap, right? And on the road, you will come across that sort of stuff. And there's something to be said about being game aware. And if any listeners don't know what game means, it's basically, when somebody says, step up your game, or I need better game, it's a sort of PUA's attempt to convince you that PUAs attempt to convince you that after studying what women want, as opposed to what they say they want, that the game isn't about giving women what they want. So that's a quote from Barbarossa, by the way, stuck in my head ever since he first said it. I'll say it again.
Right.
Game. PUAs attempt to convince you that after studying what women want, as opposed to what they say they want, that game isn't about and solely about giving women what they want. So it is just pussy pandering of another kind, in a way. And I think it's important to be game aware, because there's a certain game in there's MGTOW game too, as far as I'm concerned. So where a PUA would game her for her entertainment and to turn her on and to amuse her, I would apply a little MGTOW game to amuse myself.
Right,
frankly,
right. At her expense.
At her expense. So I will find interacting with women sometimes frightfully boring and uninteresting, and especially the way that the question is always the same and their approach is the same. Oh, so what do you do? And where do you live? And what kind of car do you drive? And you know what I'm talking about, that shitty small
Right.
talk that they're so bad at flirting these days, they don't even know how to have any fun.
Well, it's a fucking interview. It's not even flirting. It's fucking retarded.
Exactly. It's not, they are such retards at flirting these days. I can't even I don't even know where to begin. But so I will game her in my own way to amuse myself, so that the interaction isn't as boring and irritating as I might think it is. So when a girl says something like, "So what do you do for a living?" I'll say, "Oh, I'm an astronaut." I'll just lie. "Oh, I'm an astronaut." And she'll say, and I'll point to the sky and say, "See that? That's my office." And she'll say, "Oh my God, really?" And then I say, "No." So
Too funny. Funny.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell her,
Right.
that I'm not going to tell her the truth, because no matter what I say, it's going to be boring and uninteresting, right?
Well, and she's gonna have the same response.
The whole point of game is to play with her and to toy with her for her amusement and to get her all turned on and excited, right? Well, I'll do it to sort of shut her down in a way. So there is a sort of application of game in a way, in order to stop from going crazy in everyday interaction with women. And I have to deal with them all the time. And they always want to ask me how my weekend is going. How was your weekend? And do you have a girlfriend? And what did you do this weekend? And I'll just come back with, "Oh, I'm hungry." Or, "Do we have any pretzels?" Or I'll just take that puck and deflect it into a completely different arena,
Right.
And I think that is really important.
Well, sure, because it makes you look scatterbrained, and then she kind of moves on because it confuses her.
Yeah, she loses interest in it, right?
Right.
Right. And as soon as you start taking their questions at face value, you start to get suckered into her frame, which is another PUA sort of articulation. Don't
Like
get
concept,
suckered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a PUA. So understanding those concepts can sometimes help, but I do think that the application that PUAs do, the way they, like I read recently on Twitter you remember that blowout with the CAD Club? Oh
yeah,
God,
right. Oh my God, that was hilarious.
That was so epic. I can't even. That should have been framed.
Right. Go ahead and talk about that.
This guy was like broadcasting, approach women, approach women, approach women. Work on your approaches, guys. Come on, man up and approach women. And MGTOW.com went in there and said, for all the advice you guys throw out there on approaching women, have you ever thought of just calling her over to you? Why is there never a way? Just motion her over with your hand. Hey, come here for a sec. That's just as effective, for God's sake. And if she doesn't come over, who cares? But why do I hate that word approach. You approach the edge of a cliff. Okay, you approach
exactly.
You approach a lion's cage, okay? You approach an alligator pit. You don't approach her. Well, she's just a woman, not a dentist chair, right?
Right.
So I left this message for this guy to say, you guys in your ridiculous approaches, why don't you ever just say, hey, come here for a sec? And she will. And now you've got women approaching you. And as soon as a MGTOW, as soon as an MGHOW, man going his own way, gave a PUA a little advice on approaching women, he blocked. And all he did that day was block when he was called out on his shit, right?
It was funny because a lot of, like Chris Cantu, another MGTOW content creator.
Yes, I know him.
Yeah, absolutely. They all dug into him too. It was freaking hilarious.
Yes. Well, he asked for it. And he was saying, what did he say? He said MGTOW are gay, right? He said MGTOW. First thing he said was, MGTOW are the following. Here's my answer and then he said, 1, gay. And I said, well, I could certainly be gay long enough for you to blow me.
It's funny. It's funny you bring up the whole PUA community. So like when I left my second wife, I was like, I'm going to go out into the dating scene for a minute. And I was well on my way to MGTOW at that point. And I started like looking at the numbers, like the ratio of these guys that were talking about how they were like the top supposed PUAs on the internet.
Yeah.
And their close rate with women, like to get them to the point where they were getting in the bedroom, was only like 15%.
Oh,
and here's the thing, I'm nobody special. I'm just like an average guy in every way. And I do my best to minimize the appearance of any kind of, financial stability or whatever. And even then, my close rate was higher than that. And I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of advantaged to that department. For starters, I'm tall. I'm 6'2". How tall are you?
Oh, I'm only 5'7".
Okay, so I'm 6'2". All right. And let me tell you something. Anyone who thinks that 6'2" is an advantage it's not really. It's not really. I don't have any experience where being tall is a spoken advantage. It may be an unspoken advantage, but it is not a spoken advantage. I've heard, I should also tell you that my 3.
I'm sorry, say that again?
My father was 5'3".
Okay.
So I have a really big problem when a good thing that a woman has to say about me is how tall I am. Oh, I love that you're so tall. And it actually bothers me because my father was short, and there is a really huge stigma online about the way women hate on short guys.
Right.
It's really, really bad. And I saw exposing heightism on Twitter. Have you checked that out, by the way?
No, I haven't. I haven't. Let's put it this way. I've not experienced that sort of issue in my own personal life. So
well, they're not going to talk about. They're not going to. I haven't experienced that either. I haven't really experienced that either, except that I hear these compliments. Oh, it's great that you're so tall, or whatever. And I just want to say, well, how tall are you? And then she'll say, well, I'm 4. And I'll say, well, it's too bad. I only 3. If she's going to get heightist with me, I'm going to get heightist with her too. I hate that stuff. And so it really made me mad when I came across 25 pages. Short guys should suicide themselves. Twitter, 25 pages. I archived 25 pages of women saying short guys are a waste of space and short guys. I can't even tell you how pissed off I found that stuff, and that it was encouraged and allowed. I guess what I'm getting at is we were talking about. I wanted to go back a little bit about the PUA stuff. Yeah, about closing.
Okay.
And you were talking about, the closing rate. Well, the more you talk to them, the higher your odds are. But I often liken women to sort of, one of those knife sharpening tools. Those knife sharpening wheels with a tool and a foot pedal.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? What is that thing called?
It's a grinding stone.
A grinding stone. Yes, exactly. I liken them to one of these grinding stones. And so when you're sitting down and you're pumping the foot and you're doing all the effort and you're making all this effort and you're doing approaches and you're calling them and you're doing all this stuff, you see some action and you may even see sparks. But when you lift your foot off the pedal, nothing really happens. It's almost as if women are only designed to respond, right? It's like
I agree with that. Yeah.
They're created to respond. So if you're telling me that if I increase my approaches by 100 today, if I go out there and approach 100 women, well, of course I'm going to close. Of course I'm going to close. It's just a matter of time. And so I think it's just silly. Like you see the action when you put in all the effort and everything, and then you don't see any when you don't. So,
exactly.
And I think if they're going to be so passive about it, well, I'm not really interested in that pursuit. I have other things to pursue more aggressively.
And what I found too is that, like, if you're doing your own thing and you're a guy, women will come up to you. Women will talk to you. They'll wonder about you.
I mean,
they're very predatory.
I absolutely know that. I've never had any need to approach women. Like, I actually found that to be a kind of a dumb idea. I think it's kind of dumb. Hey, how are you? Can I ask your opinion on something? These bullshit opinion openers.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? My friend and I were wondering, who lies more, men or women? Like, give me a break. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
So
exactly. Well, let me ask. Okay, so let's talk about Return of Kings for a minute. You said you had a story relevant to them.
Yes. Okay, so I was going to get to that, and I'm really glad you brought me back to that. So, a year before our site opened, November 2012 to roughly when our site opened, I was a very popular commenter, very highly respected commenter. I did not talk about MGTOW or anything like that, but everything I just told you about approaching women, I posted on the site, including the dentist chair and the alligator pit and approaching I did. I have those comments. I actually have snapshots of them. And with like 100 thumbs up, 150 thumbs up. And I was highly respected commenter on that site before MGTOW.com opened. And then they found out that I was the guy who architected MGTOW.com and was immediately banned. And they started to lay into MGTOW. And that was a real, oh yes, I have actual comments, snapshots of comments of guys saying, I went by the name Tom. I went by the name Tom on that site. And I have snapshots of people saying, oh man, you're secondary, are okay. Right. And I talked about this stuff over there about approaching women and how dumb it is and that stuff. And they really, really liked it. But take it out of context and put it on the MGTOW site, and all of a sudden they got a big problem with it. And they laid into, how ROK is laid into MGTOW at least 3 times, right?
Well, I think what's interesting is that, to jump in as a tangent, but an important one, I think it's interesting that a lot of the people in the PUA community, it's like they're not there to actually help men get game. They're there to make money off of desperate men. And so anything that you do that can interfere with their ability to make money, they demonize you for. So I think that a lot of times when it comes to PUAs and the way they target MGTOW, it's because PUAs are talking about, some red pill truth, but they hold back enough so they can collect that paycheck. MGTOW gives all the red pill truth, doesn't charge you a thing, and doesn't give a shit what you do with it.
Do you may remember David D'Angelo. Do you ever remember him?
Yes.
His name is David D'Angelo, and his real name is Eben Pagan. Eben, E-B-E-N. His real name is Eben Pagan. And he's a sort of he was an early PUA, probably one of the bigger ones. And he had, you may also know chipmunk-voiced Tyler Durden, who is a sort of a well-known PUA on YouTube. He was a speaker. He was kind of fat and stoutly back then. And
we had the guy on the TFM stream who was like one of the original PUAs, and he was like the inspiration for like oh God, what's that guy's name? Who was in Top Gun? Tom. He was in Mission Impossible. Yeah, Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise played this PUA in this movie, and he actually went to this guy who was like a 1970s and 80s PUA.
Magnolia.
Magnolia, right. And I forget the guy's name now. He's in one of the TFM streams. He actually came on our show, and we were talking about PUA stuff. And the guy was like, he was power cuck. And it just, and he was like one of the original big PUAs. Like, he had this site called seduction.com and all this other shit. And like, the guy was just like, once you finally broke it down and actually talked with him and asked him direct questions, he couldn't defend his positions at all, and he just ended up basically rolling over on his back and showing us his throat. It was really sad.
Yeah, I used to get going, responding to what you originally said about their strategy. I used to get, somehow I ended up on a mailing list, and I don't remember where or how. It was like, go back to MySpace or something. I don't really remember how. And one day I woke up and I found this newsletter from David D'Angelo in my inbox. And it said, "Are you afraid of talking to women? Are you insecure? Do you need help approaching women?" And I thought that was the biggest bunch of hogwash I ever read in my life. I actually looked at this email and went, "No, do you?" Like, where does this, like, what are you talking about? Are you afraid of talking to women? Like, what? And this is what they do. They plant this insecurity into your head and then hold a seminar for you on how to get over that insecurity.
Right.
So they go out of their way to newsletter blast you about your insecurities and to talk about how difficult it is to talk to women and ask them out, when it's actually the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. And they're trying to gaslight you.
Yes. They're cultivating their own business in a way, by planting this insecurity in your head and then holding a seminar on how to get over it. Like, it's like, I can't, what, it's a metaphor for something. I'm trying to think of what it is, but it's really like, I'm going to put an idea in your head, and then I'm going to give you the cure for that idea.
Right. Well, that's like the whole psyop thing, like the big propaganda thing. What you do is you create a false enemy, and then you act as though you're the hero to fight that enemy.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, they do that in politics all the time, and it's one of the oldest political tricks in the book. I mean, it's sort of like in politics, we were talking about false flags earlier. That's very similar in concept to what you're discussing. And yeah, I mean, I agree.
For example, the concept of rejection, how to deal with rejection. That's a really, really big one. How to deal with rejection. But really, you can cure yourself of rejection anxiety in like 3 sentences. Okay. I don't know her yet. Therefore, she doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
And since she doesn't mean anything to me, her rejection can't possibly mean anything. So go ahead. Why are you trying to cure me of rejection anxiety when I already don't have any? Like, right. Give me a break. That is something that I actually posted on ROK as well. 4 sentences on how to cure yourself of rejection anxiety. Now, why am I an MGTOW, for the most part, in spirit and in actuality, a non-pursuer of women? Why am I teaching PUAs how to overcome rejection anxiety? And the reason they have a problem with that is because they can't charge money for it anymore.
Right.
They can't sell a book on rejection anxiety when you realize that it is dumb to have rejection anxiety in the first place.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that. So like, I'm married twice and I'm divorced twice. And I didn't experience any of that
twice.
In the first divorce.
Twice.
I divorced.
Wait. Stop. Twice. Really?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I have 2 children from my first marriage, 2 from my second, and I won custody in both divorces.
Wow. I did not know that about you, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's interesting is when I left my first wife, I did it on my terms. Like, it was completely on my terms. I was in the driver's seat. I forced her to file, but I mean, as far as the rest of it, I was in the driver's seat, and it is what it is. The post-divorce was a shit show, but the divorce itself was very minimally acrimonious.
How old were you?
I was young, dumb, and invincible. I married her when I was 18, I married her when I was 19. The divorce was finalized when I was 22,
Oh
But
my God. Well, okay.
yeah, no,
That's
I'm sorry, I'm lying to you. I was almost 20. Yeah, I was almost 23, but we had been separated for a year. So it was a very short marriage, and probably about a year and a half into it, I was like, "Holy shit, I got to get out of this." And again, I was young, I was dumb, I thought I was invincible. And when you're 18, you think you know anything, everything. And when people try to give you advice, your response is "fuck off."
hmm well, you can't teach a child what hot is, right?
Right, right,
You can't.
and
You cannot. You cannot explain hot to a toddler. You just have
right,
to stand back and watch them touch the hot stove. And that's exactly how I burned my finger when I was a little kid. My mother actually has this on home video. I'm putting my
right,
finger slowly towards the candle, and she's telling me, "No, don't do it. It's hot." And of course, that doesn't mean anything, right? So
right.
I touch it anyway, and then all of a sudden, I pulled my finger back, and she actually has this moment on film, and that is quite quite funny, actually. You cannot
Right.
teach a child what hot is, and
Now you
it,
know.
it's the same truth. It's the same truth about trying to tell an 18-year-old guy, "You fucking dumb shit, don't get married."
Exactly. And so my second marriage, it was interesting because this was a marriage I was, so like I was the one that pulled the pin on the hand grenade on the first marriage because I knew it was the right decision. But the second marriage, I was like, I was still tradcon. And so when it came to marriage anyway, and so I was like, I'm gonna work this out no matter what, and I'm gonna be the the good guy, and all the little tropes that are associated with blue pill cucks.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is that I was only a blue pill cuck with my wife. I was not blue pilled, and I was not a cuck in any other aspect of my life. By all outer measures, I was the alpha male. And when she left, there was a period of time. I mean, it wasn't very long, but there was a period of time where I was feeling rejection. And but again, I had known some of these red pill truths to begin with, and I had been kind of accepting them at least intellectually. But when it came to the emotional piece, I was feeling a little bit of that insecurity because the relationship died. And then as I was negotiating through the divorce before the divorce got filed, we tried to negotiate a lot of it beforehand because of my paralegal experience. I realized she had been lying to me the entire 21 years we were together.
21 years?
We were dating for 5 years because I wouldn't marry her. And then we got married in year 5, and then we were married for 17 years.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah, and I'm a real practical guy, so I judge any relationship, whether it's professional or personal or whatever, by whether or not it survives. If your relationship survives and it's mutually beneficial, like a work relationship or a contract or a business partnership, then you know that that's a successful relationship. But if it fails, obviously it was a waste of your time. So one of the things I realized really quickly was
Well,
that
even if it doesn't fail, it still doesn't mean it worked. There are a lot of
exactly.
people.
Well, that's why I said as long as it's mutually beneficial.
Yes.
Obviously, if it's not mutually beneficial, and I mean that in a very true objective sense, like a brutally objective sense. Um, but one of the things I realized was that yeah, she had been lying to me the entire time. She had been hypergamous with me, and she showed me what I wanted to see. And it was interesting because she showed me what I wanted to see. She was ghosting in plain sight on me. She was playing a part, and we talked about this last night on the TFM stream. There was a military guy from, I think he's based overseas, and we were talking about, um, he was saying that the military wives would go out and they would cheat on their husbands while they were deployed. And
Oh, that is an epidemic. That is.
right, and we kind of talked a little bit about that because I've had some experience with married women, and where they've lied to me and said that they were single, and then I find out they're married,
Same here.
after the Bukkake
Same
choke
here.
slam, right?
Same here.
And so we were talking, and I said just to give a little bit of perspective for these people listening to the stream, how do these women act when their husbands are around? And
Yeah.
he's like, Academy Award winning performance, and they are basically social chameleons. They say and do and everything, and if you didn't know better, you would think they were the pure as the driven snow. And that was my wife. He was describing my wife. But again, throughout the marriage, I kind of saw some things, and if you're willing to confront the brutal realities, even if you can't prove anything, you can see the signs. You don't need to go out and find out whether or not they're cheating. You just need to know that they're lying to you about the time. And then
Yeah,
once you understand that, then the rest of it's just logic.
I think that you know how a lot of guys say, "Well, my marriage isn't that bad," or "My girlfriend
Right.
isn't that bad,"
Right.
and I have to stop them and kind of say, "What are you talking about? Isn't that bad? Like, how low are your standards where it isn't that bad good?" You know,
Exactly.
you need to sort of reevaluate this. Like, for example, you know that thing about women being starting fights at home and being happy about that.
Right.
You know, some guys will say, "Well, she wasn't that much of a," or "She didn't get away with that much in divorce, so I'm grateful." Well, what are you
Right.
grateful about? You know, we got to stop. We got to stop thinking that not that bad is good. It's not. It has
It's
to
not.
be, you know, like well, at least my wife is not a bitch. Like, I've heard that before. At least my wife is not a bitch. Well, what are you talking about? Not a bitch. Never mind, not a bitch. How about she has to be the most loving and kind person you know, or you dump her like an anchor? I mean,
Right.
what are you
And
doing being satisfied with not a bitch? You know?
well, yeah, exactly. And you know, and it's interesting that you bring that up. So the second that certain women found out I was getting divorced, they started moving in.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I would ask them is I say, "Look, what do you bring to the table?" And she's like, "What?" I said, "No, seriously, other than a piece of ass, what
Yeah.
are you bringing to my life? What assets do you bring? Because, you know, I can go find pussy anywhere. So
Yeah.
you know, what else do you bring?" And you know, of course, you know, as kind of the tradcon guy, I'm thinking, you know, commitment, loyalty, honesty, those kind of things. And none of that shit ever comes out of their mouth. You know, of course, you know, because they don't think in those terms. They think in the terms of, oh, he's got good credit, or what kind of resources does he have that I can be a part of. And
Yeah.
so
What does she get to receive from you? What does
exactly.
her question is, what do I receive from him, not what do I bring to the table? I mean, to me, it's just absolutely asinine. You can go onto a dating site, for example, and the first box is what I'm looking for. You mean,
Right.
what are you looking for? The first thing you should talk about is what you have to offer.
Right.
Why is there a box that says what I'm looking for? You know,
Right.
what am I? I'm not ordering a pizza here. You know,
Exactly.
uh, I, you know, what I'm looking for. I just think that is a dumb box to have on a dating website. It should be, what can I bring of value to another person's life before I talk about what I expect. You know,
Well,
I
exactly.
that always stank to me. You
Well,
know.
and the other thing that I realized too is that I was fortunate because I didn't believe everything my ex-wife had told me. So I watched what she did, not what she said. And so that transition, like I said, you know, because you know when your long-term marriage breaks up, you know, we had two children that we raised together, and when your long-term marriage breaks up, you know, there's some pain associated with that. But when you realize that they were lying to you the whole time, or you realize that they were hypergamous the whole time, or you realize that it's not what they say, it's what they do, and you were kind of like, you saw the signs early on, the recovery process happens quicker. And then
Does
at
your
that
wife
point,
know? Does your wife know what you do right now? Does she know about your feminist lie stuff? And
no,
your
no, no. I so like my the name I use on the book is a pen name. I'm completely anonymous, and yeah, it's, you know, and again, I haven't spoken with her in 2.5 years. Like, she won't even raise our children together. And I have custody. So um
uh,
yeah, I mean,
well,
she doesn't have decision making or anything.
one of the things that creeped me out about it is, you know, I'm a really well traveled person.
Right.
Been, I've been all over the world basically, and I mean, I even have been 500 miles within Antarctica, you know, and so I've had a pretty interesting life at an early age too, and one of the things that I found very, very off-putting to me was the fact that I had a lot of experience, and I had a lot of girlfriends and a lot of dating and that stuff, and it was never really even a challenge. I actually had no challenge in the business of you know, having a girlfriend or anything like that. But
Right.
what was amazing to me, how and when I hit my 30s, I started dating. All of a sudden, my options opened. I was not. I was kind of a twerpy, skinny guy at 18. Okay, girls didn't want to go out with me. But when I hit 31, 31, 32, 36, I was, dating 18, 19-year-old. And the thing that they don't realize that I already had 18 experience that they did not have, right? So I was already hip to the jive by this. I was hip to their jive. I knew what, when they opened their mouth and they said certain things, I knew what that stuff meant already. I had red pill glasses. And the creepy thing to me was, if I wanted to, I could have been married at least 5 times. I would say realistically 5, 6, 7 times if I had wanted to, and if I proposed, and if I had pursued it. I could have been married at least 5 times. But the thing that creeped me out was I had never really met a that I would consider a suitable mother of my children. In all of my travels, never really met one that I thought would be a suitable wife and mother based on certain criteria, whatever. I just thought they weren't marriageable, right? But each of them, this is where it creeps me out. Each of them literally married the very next guy. Like, how am I able to go through my life and be decided that none of them were marriageable? They married the very next one.
Well, they found the thirsty cuck.
Or the one, well, but not only that, it was as if they weren't discerning to me. It's as if they weren't discerning. There's a video on a cartoon that I saw that actually was a horror show. I had a horrifying reaction to it. It's supposed to be kind of cute and funny. It's called I Guess You'll Do. And it's a little cartoon on YouTube that some guy wrote. And it's about a girl that says, well, I'm 28, you're 30, so we're about the same level of attractiveness. So let's plan the next 2 years out. And then it's almost as if they don't care who the guy is. They don't care who the guy is. Could be the next guy. It could be the next guy. As long as she gets her wedding or ring or dress or cake and her kid and her 2.1 kids or whatever it is that she wants in her little role-playing fantasy, it doesn't matter who the guy is. So when I saw this cartoon, I Guess You'll Do, I realized, holy shit, man, it didn't really matter whether it was me or him anyway, Right.
And so, that's the thing that I realized. Like I said, when I started doing like this assessment and I started looking back on the relationship, I realized that the issue wasn't me. It was her.
Yeah, it's not you.
It wasn't me the whole time. And since I've been divorced,
I know,
I've had women approach me and I'm like, I'm good.
I don't even know your personal life, and I already know it's not you. And the thing that we do is we blame ourselves way too often. Way too often. That is one of the most dangerous parts of what guys fall into. They start to blame themselves for everything. I should have listened more. I should have talked more. I should have said this. I should have brought flowers home more. I should have.
Yep.
Whatever it is, the guys.
And here's the thing: I did those things for about 20 minutes. So yeah, you're absolute. I mean, you're singing to the choir here because I did that. I was guilty of those things as my relationship was falling apart.
We all blame ourselves for those things, and she's going to blame you for those things too. That's the danger zone. And when you kind of reevaluate and you go back and you really say, was that really am I really responsible for that? You'd be surprised how much of that baggage you can ditch. And that is one of the most liberating, say, you know what? It wasn't me after all. And my last significant one was some time ago. And I was a sort of more of a naturally red pill kind of guy when I was younger. And as I got a little bit older, I started to get, what's the word I'm looking for? You know how girls are always trying to morph you into being more like a girl in a relationship? Care more, where they feminize you a little bit. So I fell into that trap of like being nicer when I shouldn't have, right? Or when I knew it was kind of making me sick, or when I realized this was going against my own nature, I still went with it anyway to make it work for the sake of making it work. And in the last one, I realized like I was in my mid-30s, and I thought to myself, well, was it me? So what I did was I approached it for better or for worse, and I started tolerating things that I would never normally tolerate, that I would never put up with previously, just to see if I could make it work. And that didn't work. that didn't work either. And I realized
Well, and the harder you try, the worse it gets. Like you
can't do that either.
it just spiral. It circles the drain, and then
Absolutely can't do that. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, we've been going for 90 minutes. I think that we've got to.
Yeah,
it's afternoon now, so it's been over 90 minutes. It's awesome. I mean,
are
it's
we
a great conversation.
Are we going to have a little Q&A, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've got a couple questions. So, guys, for those people in the audience, if you're on a PC or a Mac, a desktop, or you're on Twitch TV, you should see a Bukkake Chokeslam every so often go up in green letters, and there'll be a little icon with my Misandry symbol in a little gray box. If you click that, you can redeem it and ask questions, either to me or to Keymaster. Please denote in the beginning who you're asking the question to, and then type out your question. If you're on mobile device, if you're on Roku, go ahead and put in the chat, put a brackets with questions in caps. Again, if it's to MGTOW.com, or if it's to DDJ, put who the question is to, or if it's to both of us, put that, and then type out your question, and I'll try to get them as I go. I'm going to go ahead now and check out the Streamlabs and check out some of these questions, and let's go ahead and move to this portion of the show. Not very many questions today, so that's good. I mean, I think it's been a good back and forth between us. So obviously, if there's not very many questions, there's a lot.
Yeah, I don't take. That's kind of good that there's not too many.
Right. Okay. So Rex Eater 2015 asks, what do you think of Brock Turner, and have you heard that he demanded a retrial today? I'm not actually familiar with that case. Are you, Keymaster?
I'm not either. Not even slightly. Not even slightly.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Say again?
I said sorry. I'm not familiar with that at all.
Well, if he's the one I'm thinking of, I think he might be the guy that got a slap on the wrist for rape charge or something. I don't remember. I'm looking at the chat. If anybody knows about Brock Turner, type some stuff out. And I'm going to actually go to the chat right now. There's a question there. Wary Wolfie. Question, DDJ. Given that the Mangina of the Year Awards are open for nominations, who would be your well-known nominee, and who would be your pick of person who has done great harm to men, yet most men would not know? I'm going to answer the second part of that question first, because I plan on doing a video about her. The woman who has done great harm to men who most would not know, well, there's two women. The first is Ellen Pence, who is one of the co-founders of the Duluth model. She is basically like the Hitler of feminism. The Duluth model has demonized millions of men throughout the years, through the decades, and it is a complete shit show. And I think that she's done massive damage to men. And I think that the other person that's caused a lot of damage is Gloria Steinem. Gloria Steinem she's a charlatan, and she's been contacting women, trying to get them to sue rich men for a variety of things outside the statute of limitations. And if you look at like the Attorney Code of Professional Ethics, attorneys shouldn't be taking cases or telling clients they can sue when they have no legal basis to do that. So not only is she dishonest in pursuing the cases in general, she's lying to her own clients by trying to tell them that she can give them a chance. And so she's just swindling people for her own gain, and she's the worst kind of con artist. And she's a disgrace to the legal profession. As far as well-known nominees for Mangina of the Year, God, I would say that pretty much anybody who's been outspoken, probably Bill Maher. Bill Maher rates right up there near the top. And there's a lot of guys out there, basically any one of these guys who, fedora tipping intensifies. There's a lot of the blue pill cucks, man. They're like herpes, and they're spreading exponentially. It's really retarded.
The enemies. They are the enemies of men, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
They are truly worse than Gloria Steinem or any of this. I really do think that the guys that would throw another man under the bus and not understand any of this stuff I think they're worse. They are worse, because when you go out with you actually have to undo the shit that he filled her head with.
Right.
I find that we compete with them, and they are the struggle we have to overcome. They are part of the reason women are outrageous.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I find that they are worse.
Right.
When they're worse.
Exactly. So I'm going to move on to the next question. This is from Ethical AA, and it's a question for both of us. How can recording technology be used to prevent false accusations? I'm actually kind of terrified of this question in a way, because there's a lot of misinformation out there going out about guys who they still want to interact with women, but they want to protect themselves, or they're trying to like mitigate the risk. And they're like, well, maybe if I can record this, it'll be easier, or maybe, some options are there. Well, the problem is that feminists understood this, and they understood this a long time ago. And so any kind of recording of a woman could be considered stalking or revenge porn or whatever the situation is. And I've seen a lot of cases where you can record everything and you can still be convicted anyway. There was a guy TFM talks about, and who's he's in TFM's community, who will remain nameless. And he talks about a friend of his who was also in the BDSM community at the time, who he and his significant other were together. They had signed releases. They had, she signed releases for, him to tie her up and for him to be rough with her. And they had safe words, and they had a relationship. And when she was done with the relationship, she accused him of rape and sexual assault. That man's in prison today.
Okay, I have an answer for this, first of all.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Before I get to the answer, of course they will. I mean, these girls that say they want to be rough and they say safe words and they want to be smacked around and all of that stuff. I have been in bed with them who said, smack me harder. I have been in that bed, and I got out of that bed. Pants on, lady. You're out of your fucking mind. I'm not ending up on the front page of I know what a good fuck is. Okay. And smacking her around to the point where, she wants to be mistreated is where I'm not ending up on the front page just so she can get off. And part of her getting off is being able to demonize me later and deny her that satisfaction. I will absolutely deny her that satisfaction. I don't care if she gets off on it, but the answer to the recording thing, and believe me, 20 years ago in May 1997, some girl tried to ruin my biography by bringing up a false accusation against me. I'm mad as hell about it.
Right.
And but the answer to the question about the recording devices is really just let all of them think you're a fag. Let everyone think you're a fag. And I'm not kidding. It's actually quite effective.
You mean let them think you're gay?
Yeah. And I'm serious. There's no consequence in it. As a matter of fact, it actually gives you more rights, and they're going to leave you alone.
TFM says the same thing. TFM says, tell them you're a transgender. Tell them you're a male presenting transgender.
Kidding. I'm not kidding. You can mock the shit out of it, tell them you're tranny or whatever. And I think that unless I'm fucking her, it's none of her business. Like, for example, I was at a pool party on the roof. Well, I don't want to say a pool party, but kind of a get together, and there were a bunch of people outside, and these girls, you can never talk about sex at all. And you can guarantee that some girl, even in a stranger situation where everyone around you has never met before, she'll bring it up. She'll bring it up and she'll ask questions like, are you seeing anyone who you fucking? And she wants to know, are you gay? Whatever it is. Just let them think that, like, I call them out and tell them it's totally inappropriate. Unless I'm fucking you, I'm not discussing it. And the gay question, are you gay or what? I'm not going to disprove a gay accusation either. It's kind of dumb, in my opinion. When you don't have to show women worshiping behavior or anything. You don't have to be an ass kisser or a white knight or anything. Suing her if you're simply not running after her ass or showering her in compliments or whatever. She's going to think that anyway. Well, then fine. I'm not going to, I've had a woman say to me on a date, how do I know you're not a serial killer? I mean, try and think about how insane that is. How do I know you're not a serial killer? When I invite her back to
I actually had a woman ask me that, and I started laughing at her. I was like, you're not dead yet. That's how you know.
Yeah, how do you know I am?
Right.
What are you talking about? How do you know I am? Are you out of your mind, lady? I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit here and prove to you that I'm not a serial killer. Are you out of your fucking mind? Aim higher,
Right. Exactly. All right. So let's move on to the next question. This one's from Master J. It's to both of us.
I think it's really important. that is really
Right.
important, because the recording advice thing is good. I have no problem pressing record on my phone if I am nervous at all or whatever. Just let them think you're a fag. I think it's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that at all.
And here's the thing. Yeah. If you're in public, yeah, absolutely. But if you're in private, you want to be real careful because, again, there's lots of laws you got to associate with that. So depending on your jurisdiction, just be very careful. So yeah. So Master J, next question to both of us. Hi. So women have become utterly uninteresting to me. I just don't care anymore. Monk mode, full stop, mic drop. But now my entire life has become uninteresting to me as well. Like it lost all flavor. It's turned all gray. Nothing.
That's a
Um,
great question. That's a
yeah,
great question.
you want to hit that one first, and I'll follow up on it.
Well, I know what he's talking about, we have to always remind ourselves that we've been socially conditioned to think that way.
Right.
When you become conscious and aware of the fact that you've been socially conditioned to think that you aren't successful or worth living or worth valued unless there's a woman in your life, you're brought up to think that, and women will even shame you with it. It's actually used as a method of shaming to make you feel bad when
To
you
bring
don't
you
have a
back to the
Valentine on
plantation.
Valentine's. And I mean, even in movies like Top Gun, when they said, "Oh, crashed and burned," crashed and burned. Are you serious? A girl doesn't want to go out with me, and I've crashed and burned. They actually liken this to going down in a plane in flames, and you can't fall for that shit. So you have to realize that you've been, since the crib, you have been taught that not having a girlfriend is a life not worth living, even in some kind of, on some level, right? So when you say, well, women have become kind of totally uninteresting, well, aren't they? I mean,
Right.
they are kind of uninteresting.
Right.
When was the
Well,
last time a woman brought me a really clever idea? I think of one. At best, she reminded me that I forgot something.
exactly. Well, and my whole thing is that if when it comes to MGTOW, you're going your own way, and obviously we're discussing the concept of avoiding romantic interactions with women or commitment, cohabitation, and marriage for those MGTOW that still date women casually. Um,
Yeah.
the thing is that you have to ask yourself what you're living for, not what you're running away from. And I've gotten a little bit of criticism because I've done a couple streams with women, one of which was highly informative, and the other which was a direct response to some things that they said that I disagreed with. Both were good interactions, both were informative streams, and both were good case studies on female nature. But the reality is that you got to ask yourself what you live for. What are you doing that you enjoy? Because I'll tell you what, and I said this. Somebody asked me in a stream. They said, is MGTOW lonely? And I think MGTOW in and of itself is not lonely, but the process to get to MGTOW is lonely because you feel bad, you feel gray, and it's exactly what Keymaster says. We have been indoctrinated as men in gynocentrism to the point where we have been taught that we have no value outside of what the utility we can be for women is. When you look at people like Miyamoto Musashi, who was an undefeated swordsman his entire life and had a profound effect on the martial arts, or you look at Nikola Tesla, or you look at any of the truly great men, they were able to hone an art, and they were able to basically focus on their perfection. They perfected whatever it is they were trying to do, and they had historical significance. I think as men, we can do whatever it is we want to do, and it doesn't matter who you are. And this is to the TFLers as well, because there's a video out there. It's a few years old. It's from a former pro wrestler, Diamond Dallas, something or other. And he actually after he finished pro wrestling, he became a yoga instructor. And there was a guy out there who was he was a former military paratrooper. He became injured. He hurt his knees from jumping out of too many planes. I guess he had some kids, but because of his injuries and his disabilities, he gained a bunch of weight. His wife left him, and he was alone. He was a TFLer, and he wanted to lose the weight. And he was like 47 or 48 years old, and he was stuck in a wheelchair, and he had to wear the crutches with the arm attached crutches, and he couldn't walk. And the doctor said, "You will never run again. You are crippled for life. There's nothing we can do for you. So he reached out to all these people and he said, look, I want to try to get in shape. I want to lose the weight. I want to be healthy. What can I do? And this former pro wrestler, yeah, Diamond Dallas Page, thank you, Picos Bob. So he went out of his way. He did everything that Page told him to do. And it is very powerful because you see him in the beginning of his training. He can't hold any of the yoga poses. He's falling down. He's frustrated. He's, and then they show pictures as he's going through. He's changed his diet. He's made and he's not rich. Like, he didn't go to the gym. He wasn't independently wealthy. This was a guy that was on poverty disability income. And he did it in his home, and he had his kids film him, and he lost all the weight. He got super healthy. And at the end, he ran.
I would like to add to that question as well. One of the profound quotes from Wilbur Wright, the inventor of the airplane, was, "I don't have time for a wife in an airplane."
Right.
I mean, that's like, what, 5 words, 6 words? And I don't have time for a wife in an airplane. And I just realized that, DDJ said, you're not going away from women. You're not pursuing them. You were pursuing something else. And I always tell people 27 hours a day is not enough for what I want to do. I'm busy. I'm too busy to care. Now, if she jumps on my dick, I'll think about it, but right. I'm too busy. And even when I had a girlfriend, I found them a nuisance,
I use the analogy of slipping on a banana peel. I'm like, shit, I slipped on a banana peel and I ended up in bed. And the reason I use that is because that's not my goal. Like, I don't give a shit about women at all. And even after I became MGTOW and I continued to date, I wasn't looking for women. I wasn't focused on women. But I think the other thing that when you talk about how the questioner talks about how his life is gray, somebody told me something a long time ago that I thought was a piece of profound wisdom that is missing from many people's lives today. And the statement that he said was this: life is like a bowl of oatmeal with raisins and lumps. And what he meant by that was that life in general, like on a normal day, it's kind of bland. It's just normal. It's not fantastic. It's not horrible. It's just average, right? And sometimes you have moments of just bliss and happiness and joy. And other times you have moments where the storm is hitting and nothing that you're doing seems to be working correctly. But in modern society, especially for men who are living in a gynocentric system and living under gynocentric values, blue pill men are told you need to pursue happiness, and the only way you can find happiness is through female validation. And that is a lie. That is an absolute lie.
It's a huge lie. So if you feel, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. No, you're good. You're good. So the point is that you need to understand that life is not meant to be a party all the time. It's not meant to be this huge, like, I'm going to rush from my next hit. Because, it's like a drug addict. If you're running from happiness to happiness, you're addicted to this endorphin feeling, and you're chasing the dragon just like a drug addict.
Yes,
and
chasing happy, chasing. How people are always saying, I'm not happy. You hear that a lot from women. I'm not happy.
Right.
Well, chasing happy is one of the best ways to be miserable. You're almost guaranteed you're going to be unhappy by saying, why am I not happy right now? Why am I not happy? And I really believe this. This is not a pitch, okay? I really believe that happiness is being content. And
right.
And if you're content, if a man is content, happiness is going to follow. And I'm actually grateful when I make it home in one piece and I unlock the door and I know there's nobody on the other side. I don't have to work another shift to make someone else happy. I've already spent the day making someone else happy, and now I'm coming home and now I'm going to be content.
Right.
I think there's a lot of value in contentment. Not too many people see the value in contentment. Maintaining an even strain is that's where happiness is. I really believe that. I'm not saying this to sound good.
No, I think it's real, and and to kind of dovetail that a little bit, I don't think people should pursue happiness. I think they should pursue serenity.
Yes.
And
Yes, you should not pursue happiness. You're going to
you
be
should not
miserable.
pursue. Absolutely. And so, if you look at like the American style of living or the Western style of living, we are consumers, and our society has taught us to consume. We have a storage unit industry that's worth billions of dollars of shit we don't ever use. We have garages full of shit that we never use or never will touch. We have all these possessions we never use. I say, you know what? Declutter your life. If you're not using this on a daily basis, but it's something you're going to use occasionally, keep it and store it because it's an asset. But if it's something that you haven't touched in a year or 2 years, get rid of it. If you have a storage unit and you don't need it, get rid of it. Because all that clutter in your life, it creates a lot of stress. And, de-stress your life, simplify your life, and focus on the things that matter to you. Whether you're an artist or you want to go hiking or you're a photographer or you're a martial artist or you're something, cultivate a hobby and cultivate something you can do with your free time. And a lot of people, for those people that are concerned about like employment, I tell them, look, and I tell this to my children as well. Don't do what you love. Find a job that can financially support the lifestyle you want and the hobbies that you want.
I will. I have to step in on that. Don't do what you
Okay.
love stuff. I absolutely believe that too. Have you guys heard of a company called WeWork? Have you heard of
Yeah, it's a
WeWork?
fucking joke. Yeah.
Okay, and that's their tagline: "Do what you love." Okay, what kind of bullshit is that? You don't do what you love. You do what needs to be done.
Right.
You do what needs to be done. Do what you love is such a millennial, idealistic, dumb.
It's a pipe dream.
It's dumb, and
Yeah.
it's beyond dumb. They actually have the T-shirts called "Do What You Love." Their employees who mop the floors and clean the garbage can wear the T-shirt that says "Do What You Love." Now, are you telling me? I mean, how sick is that? The people who mop the floors and clean the garbage and all that. You think they're doing what they love? No,
Right.
They're doing what needs to be done. Do what needs to be done.
Right.
And when you ask yourself, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What ass do I have to kick? You won't have any trouble trying to find something to do. I'm so busy, it's not even funny.
Right.
And,
okay. So next question, I'm going to kind of move on here. All right.
Yeah.
Blue Greed says to DDJ and to MGTOW.com, you talked about interacting with women in day-to-day life on the TFM show. I myself am socially awkward in part due to my autism, and I don't want to be the guy falsely accused for being a creep. What steps would you recommend?
I don't even know what that means. It's not really hard to consider a creep, first of all. Don't let anybody creep shame you. I heard a woman once say, "Oh, this guy smiled at me. What a creep." This guy's smiling at, this guy's just staring at me. He's creeping me out. Or, you could send a woman anonymously a bunch of stuff and she'll think she has a stalker. I don't, don't let anybody creep shame you for starters. Who gives a shit if she's a creep?
Yeah. And this, in today's day and age as well, I would also say this. Women are so hypersexualized that they're going to misinterpret anything you do anyway. However,
You're
I think
a creep no matter what. You're a creep no matter what.
Right. So here's the rule of thumb I would follow, especially if you have autism and you can't see the social cues. Treat everyone with the same level of etiquette. If you'll hold open a door for a man, hold open the door for a woman. If you'll say please and thank you and those sorts of, I know they sound traditional, but saying please and thank you to everyone is important. If you interact with a woman, do not interact with her in any way that you would not interact with a man. And the rules that you would act, like the way you act around your father, that's how you should act around these women. You don't want to give them any kind, and for somebody who's autistic, you respect your father, you're reasonable with him, and you give them a wide berth, because obviously, if you come from an old school parenting style, your dad might, backhand you as an attention getter. But again, that might be my generation. But the point is that, you're not going to go and tell your father that he looks cute. You're not gonna tell your father that he should smile more, or any of the stupid little taglines that are there. So, don't worry about the interaction. Focus on, if you're at work, focus on your job, communicate what needs to be communicated with people. And if you don't understand what the answer is because of autism or whatever, then you need to let people know, I don't understand, can you explain it in different words? And for those people that are autistic in the audience, the thing that I would say is this: if you're at work and you're autistic and you have a job and you're doing what you can with life, let your human resources department know that you're autistic, because they will actually make sure that they take accommodation for you. And so if something does come up and it's just because of a misinterpretation, they'll go, oh, this person's, he's autistic, it's no big deal, he didn't mean it that way. And they'll understand what that lens is. But if you don't tell them, you could get targeted. It could put a blacklist on your employment history, and it could create additional problems. So, again, treat them like your father, practice etiquette with everyone, and don't just hang out with these women, and find stuff to do. Keep yourself busy, because autists are really good at time management and just really focusing in on stuff. So, do that. Keymaster, did you want to weigh in here, or are we going to go to the next question?
Oh, no, I've said my bit on that.
Okay. All right. So next question is in the chat, and this is from Halliman 1345. And he says, DDJ, what would you consider the worst of two? Worst case scenario for being raped through alimony, or worst case scenario being raped through child support? They're both bad. The problem is that the child support system is not created for male sustainability. So, for example, and this might get into a little bit of deeper concepts here as far as legal concepts, so if you don't kind of follow along completely, I'll do what I can to explain it in layman's terms. When you have children and you divorce, your child support is based on both of your incomes combined, and then that split, like 60-40 or 50-50 or 70-30, based on what the amount of income you earned was, will be determined on your child support. So if you earned 70% of the income and she earned 30% of the income, once your income is added together, whatever that child support number amounts to, that 70% is what you're responsible with. But here's the part they don't tell you. You're also responsible for healthcare insurance, you're responsible for life insurance, you're responsible for 70% of daycare and 70% of out-of-pocket experiences as well. And those things add up. They add up huge. And so where a lot of guys get caught up in the child support trap is they can't afford all the little extra incidentals that are never considered, because they're paying for their household by themselves right now, or their expenses have gone up because they went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household, and then on top of that, they're having somewhere between 30 and 35% of their gross income taken and provided to the ex, and they get there's no tax deduction, there's no kind of deduction for that, and even worse, she doesn't have to pay taxes on that income, and she doesn't have to claim it as income. So
that's sick.
It is.
That's sick.
It is. And so she wins twice. And I've seen people collect child support and still get financial aid for school, even if the child support's thousands of dollars a month. So, it's a very biased and misandric system. And it rewards women for trapping a man with a baby, and it rewards women for divorce raping him. So, alimony is shit, child support is shit, and both are equally bad, just in different ways. And I'll tell you the other thing too, is that Ellen Pence in the Duluth model, if you look at my most recent video again, #ShowAlert, she actually created the protection orders, the civil protection orders, and the civil abuse allegations. She did that as part of a criminalization agenda for the express purpose of being able to put men in jail. So you have to understand that that's part of the reason why if you get behind on your child support or you get behind on your alimony, they will throw you in jail, and that is misandry by design. And Ellen Pence, I should say, admits it. So you have to understand that from a legal cost benefit analysis, marriage makes no sense for a man. Having children in this day and age makes no sense for a man. And I know
you know what the marriage. The word marriage, in my opinion, should be replaced with marriage contract.
Right.
Because when you mention the contract, you have to do there's very little talking that needs to be done after that. They get it. Like in a social situation, for example, if somebody's talking about marriage, marriage romanticizes. Or the word marriage you still think of, happiness and birdies and doves and flowers and cake and guests and a white dress and all of that. But as soon as you say marriage contract, it's a completely different tone. And I would say that any guy who's, speculating or talking about it or whatever, just replace the word marriage with marriage contract, and it all starts to make a hell of a lot.
Exactly. And, and the other side of it too is that marriage used to be governed by, like, secular marriage used to be governed by contract law, but feminists changed all that. So, you definitely want to protect yourself no matter what. And, the best way to do that is to avoid commitment, cohabitation, and marriage. And, if you haven't seen my video about avoiding marriage is not enough, you need to see it, because it talks about how the domestic violence laws are used to divorce rape unmarried men. And everywhere in the first world where feminism has been adopted, they use these domestic violence laws, and it's a shit show. Now, with that said, I'm going to move to the next question before it scrolls off my screen. This is Laser RD question. I have only had 3 serious relationships, but have been turned down by 4, and they either say no cause, no because they want to just be friends, or have ended up in relationships a couple days after they dumped me. Is that enough premise to be MGTOW? Let me explain something to you, Laser, just real quickly. Number one, if they say they wanted to be just friends with you and you're only interested in them romantically, ghost on them. And if they've ended up in relationships a couple days after they've dumped you, it's because they were cheating on you to begin with. So, I honestly say, look, date what you want, but remember, she's never yours. It's just your turn. So if you walk in with that and you understand that, today's women have been, and here's the thing, like, I don't hate women, but today's women are allowed to exercise their hypergamy with no accountability because of all the feminist and gynocentric laws out there. So you can't hold them accountable for what they're doing, or you're going to be criminalized for that. So if you just treat it like a temporary set of circumstances, you fuck her while she's there, and then when she goes, you let her go. It's not a problem. Just make sure you don't get divorce rate. Make sure you don't get sperm jack. Make sure you don't get the false allegations. I'm personally monk because I don't want any of that. For me, it's not a big deal. I mean, I'm not saying I'll be monk forever, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what the future holds as far as like the whole monk mode thing, but I will tell you this. Yeah, I would go MGTOW because I'll tell you what, MGTOW provides you red pill truths that you're not going to get anywhere else. You want to weigh in on that there, Keymaster?
Yeah, I was going to say, his question ended with, is that a reason to go MGTOW? And I don't think women are ever the reason. I really don't think that if that's your primary motivator, I would say you're doing it wrong. Because like we're talking about, you want to do it for your reasons and your pursuits. So whereas, like, for example, I don't need to go monk, right? Let's just talk about me for a second so that I'm neither of you guys. Sure. I don't need to go monk. I just need to not pursue them.
That's my point. Right. That's what I'm saying. I've quit pursuing women. So
that is the point. And that is really the most important aspect of it is not pursuing them is not the same as, like, I don't need to say, oh, I'm a monk. I don't need to say that I'm not pursuing women. I mean, I don't need to say that I'm MGTOW because because I'm monk. Like I told you about the sharpening wheel. If I don't do anything, nothing happens. So,
well, and I guess, yeah, and let me clarify that too. Now that you bring that up, I think you bring up an extremely important point. So when I say I'm monk, I'm not actively avoiding women.
Yes,
I'm just not pursuing them.
Yes.
Yeah, and so like monk is where it's like Denny's, right? It's a 24-hour restaurant. Nobody ever goes to Denny's. You just end up there. So I'm not pursuing women. I've ended up being monk as a result. I haven't gone monk, but again, I'm not pursuing women by choice. So absolutely. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that was it, really. I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't doing it for the wrong reasons. You don't want to say, oh, I've had a hard time, or I think he's had, how did he start off by asking that question? Can you just read the first half of it?
Yeah, he said something about how he had he had 3 serious relationships, been turned down by 4, and they either said they wanted to be friends or they ended up in relationships a couple days later.
Right. Well, I'd like to, first of all, who wants a serious relationship anyway? If it's not a fun relationship, get rid of it. Right. That's a really important thing too. Women are always talking about serious relationships and getting serious, and they want their drama, and they want their little arguments, and they want to have a live-in situation where she can ruin your day. That's what a serious relationship is, and it's not fun. It's not. If it's not fun, and you can say this to her and say, "Who wants a serious relationship?" I want a fun relationship where I'm not going to have one at all.
Right.
So she better
one where both of you are invested. Absolutely.
Yeah, she better make an effort to have a fun relationship, or I'm not pursuing jack shit.
Right. You both deserve to be entertained. So, all right, next question. This one is from Night Owl Night Owl 69 or Night Owl 169. DDJ, my younger brother 14 is starting to watch TFM and other MGTOW content producers. He still wants to date and be in relationships despite warnings from me. What should I do or say to help him guide him through relationships, because he is dead set on it right now in being in them?
Well, wait.
Ahead.
Let me. Can I?
Go ahead.
Can I?
Yeah, go for it. Take the lead.
Okay, to want to be in a relationship with someone he hasn't met yet is a kind of a little bit of madness. He wants to be in a relationship if he wants to be in a relationship early. So his focus is already in the wrong place. I would recommend never doing that. You want to let the girl give you plenty of reasons why you would want to be in a relationship. And if she's not doing that, don't pressure yourself. Don't talk about it. Don't feel like you're empty or incomplete or there's work for you to do. Let the girl, at least I think that's a really healthy way to let the girl give you reasons why you want to be there with her, and not you coming up with reasons and thinking you're hell-bent on it. I mean, do you strongly agree with that? Because I think that's a really healthy attitude.
I think you do. I think I do. And I actually have used this in a different context, but I'm going to go ahead and apply it here. The woman that you hang out with, if you're still dating and you're interested in a female, the woman that you hang out with or the woman that you choose to invest your temporary time with, she needs to be the natural choice. She needs to be the one that you're like, yeah, I could hang out with her for a minute and maybe sleep with her or whatever. She should not be the one like these people who are like, well, I want a relationship. Well, if you want a relationship, you're not living for the right reasons. So my suggestion is this: when you talk to your 14-year-old brother or relative, ask him, well, let me ask you something. If you're not in a relationship, what are you living for? I mean, if you go to the gym, you should go there for your own fitness. If you start a hobby, it should be for, basically for honing a skill or learning an art for your own betterment. And he should always ask himself, what does she bring to the table? He should always ask himself if she's providing the investments. And you should tell him not to listen to what she says, but what she does. And if she's evasive or she's dishonest, dump her.
Or she's not fun.
She's not fun. Right.
Right.
Dump her immediately. And here's the thing: if she's lying to you, the first time she lies to you, ghost out. Ghost out. Don't even waste time. Don't even look back. Just ghost out. Because I'll tell you what, it is better to be alone and know where you stand than to be in a relationship and not know anything and be insecure.
Yeah, I would, if she's not terrific, warm blanket and a smiling joy to be around, fucking way.
Right.
Just, it's not happening,
And I will say this too, for those guys having sex, if masturbation feels the same as having sex with the woman you're with, she's not the woman you should be fucking. You need to find a different one. Or go back to masturbation. Just saying. Because that's a dead fish. All right. Next question. Halaman1345 says, DDJ, thank you. I want your opinion on this. I'm not saying I'll do it. If you get a girlfriend overseas and never allow her to come to the United States, what's the risk? Can you still get divorce raped if you live in the United States? Yes, you can. First and foremost, anybody who thinks that they can do a mail order bride, women overseas scam men all the time. And it's not just like, the Nigerian prince email scam either. I mean, women from the Ukraine, especially Asians, like from jungle Asians, like Indonesia and shit like that. And what they do is they get these guys hooked up. And then what they do is once the guy has got hook, line, and sinker, they either use him to get into the United States, and then they'll file a DV charge against him, knowing that will secure their citizenship. And then
yes,
they can divorce rape
I was just going to say that you have to underline that. And Repeat that
Okay, let
again.
me go back then, and I'll say it again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If they will, so the United States has an immigration policy that if you are from another country and you're female, if you come to the United States and then you file a civil protection domestic violence order against the guy that you came here for, you can leave that guy, stay in the United States, and destroy his life at the same time.
And you get a green card.
And you get a green card. It's permanent
Incentivized to
residency.
get a permanent residency.
Right.
It's sick, man. Sick.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
lovely Eastern European girl that you fell in love with and you want to bring over too. I have a circle of Russian friends, about 12 people. We hang out every once in a while, and the ladies are really quite lovely for a while.
Right.
They're, they really are for a while, and then you get to see their colors, and they are not, the little flowers that originally, because they behave.
Well, women are
crap.
fantastic chameleons. And I'll tell you what, they are so, I mean, there's a reason why spy agencies use honey traps where they trap these men with women to get secrets from them. It's because men are vulnerable to women. And the only defense that you have against that is, in that stage is time. And watching them, like exactly what Keymaster said, watching them and watching the mask slip and watching what they do is very, very telling. And, again, the other thing is that you want to really focus on not bringing these women over. If you think you're going to get a mail order bride or whatever, let me tell you something. You don't have to quit smoking whatever it is you're smoking. Just let the pipe grow cold occasionally, because you're going to bring her over here. She's going to divorce rape you and go from there. And I'll tell you what, this also goes for virgins, and it goes for Muslim women. There was a Muslim guy on the TFM show. His significant other was a Muslim woman from the Middle East. He brought her to the United States, and the first thing she did was become hypergamous. She accused him of DV. She was abusive to him, and she tried to divorce rape him. So you have to understand that all women are like that. And the reality is that every woman is a slut if you catch her on the right day. So you have to take care of yourself, because they will destroy your life in very, very permanent ways. All right. Next question is from Super Finger Blaster 9017. What are your thoughts on building a business in the UK, and how to protect ourselves? So for most of the employees are outsourced in China and India and the Philippines. I focus on subcontractors. I don't know anything about business in the UK. I mean, other than just, some super generic concepts. So honestly, any answer that I would have for you as far as that is concerned would be very, very minimal. The only thing I would say is that if you outsource to another country, don't bring those people to the UK. Don't under no circumstances should you ever import those people to the UK, because you guys have a serious immigration problem right now. And you guys have, I mean, the UK government has gone full retard on the social justice movement and the hate speech and everything else. And if you haven't seen Misandry today in the UK, I encourage you to watch it. UK is an absolute social justice and feminist cesspool. And I never thought I would say it, but the United States is actually better to be in than the UK as a direct result of the shit in that video. So, other than that, Keymaster, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope, I said it already.
All right,
Yep.
all right. Super Finger Blaster again. Question: what are your thoughts on? Oh, he already asked that question. All right, let me see if there's any other questions here. All right, here we go. Halaman1345 again. DDJ, I feel bad for my friend. He didn't like using condoms and accidentally got a girl pregnant. It's confirmed. It's his already. What should he do? Bend over and kiss his ass goodbye. He got sperm jacked. These guys, these women, and we talked about this last night in the TFM show. These women get super hypersexual. They don't want you to use a condom. They want you to go raw because they want to sperm jack you, and they will toss the sex at you.
That question actually has him saying he didn't like using them. So in this case,
right.
I would kind of say, I would give him a little shake for not liking to use condom. You don't like to use condom, but do you like 216 monthly payments?
Exactly. This is what's called natural consequence. And here's the thing, I would use your friend as a cautionary tale to other people and go, look, this guy went full retard, ha ha ha, and then move on with your day. That's all you can do.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Jagaba said, I redeemed a Bukkake chokeslam for my question just recently. That's neat. Congratulations. If you did, then I'll see it. And then, oh, there it is. Jagaba. Question. How can someone following MGTOW philosophy find brotherhood, make new friends, and avoid total isolation when they face tons of rejection in their past, been screwed over by people appearing to be friendly, and are surrounded by blue pill peers? I'm going to go ahead and I'll take the lead on this, and just because I can actually speak to some of this from my personal life. My post divorce action was a fucking nightmare, and that's being tactful. My life had been destroyed. They had done everything in their power to socially isolate me, and had I been a weaker person, I probably would have committed suicide or homicide or mass murder or something, because those are really the next logical stops when people go out of their way to destroy your life. Um, the thing I would say is this: look at before second wave feminism. Look back to the Great Depression, or to times of war, or to major times of tragedy, and you see people, they stop focusing on the tragedy and they start focusing on the solution. So as long basically you get what you invest in, and this goes for relationships as well. Obviously if they both invest, but you get what you invest in. And what I mean by that is that if you're gonna focus on the pain, and you're gonna focus on basically the hurt, you're gonna stay there, and you're gonna get depressed, and you're gonna get really emotionally traumatized over it. What you have to do is you have to find things to keep you busy, to keep you healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. And once you focus on those things and you understand that you have needs that need to be met, once you start focusing on those needs, that grief and that depression, it'll solve itself. Because when a relationship fails, or when there's social isolation that's there, it's like grieving for a dead relative. You have somebody that you love and you care about, and they die. You're going to go through a series of like 5 stages of grief type of thing. And TFM talks about this. He's got a stages of grief video you should watch. If you haven't watched it, watch it. If you have watched it, watch it again. It's a fantastic video. And the thing is that grief goes away. But there used to be a socially acceptable to grieve. So if somebody died, you would have a period of mourning that you would be allowed to basically just fall apart and do what you had to do to get through that grief cycle. And then you pick yourself back up and you move on with your life. We don't do that anymore for dead people. And we definitely don't do it in the context of divorce or failed relationships. And I think that we do. I think, there's a sense of loss that's felt that has to be handled. And so when it comes to that whole grief piece, you're going to be socially isolated. Well, make new friends. And, obviously you can't necessarily talk about MGTOW at work, or you can't talk about it maybe to your blue pill friends, especially if they're like, hardcore Christian gynocentrics. Talk to people online, participate in forums, participate in conversations. MGTOW.com was made exactly for that, so you can connect with like-minded people, which is why I like him here. Because I'll tell you what, MGTOW.com has saved lives, and it's helped me through a difficult time in my life. And, because it confirms red pill truths, but it also fortifies you with that knowledge that knows that, number one, you're not alone, but number two, there are other people who can kind of walk you through this. And you can see this in the forum threads. And on the same token, you look at the Monkey Business Discord server with Turd Flinging Monkey. These guys are having fantastic conversations with one another. They are supportive of one another. They don't put up with stupid shit, of course, because, we're guys, steel sharpens steel. So if you walk in there and you're a booger-eating moron, they're going to let you know, but they're not going to hate you for it. They're just going to be like, hey, you're a booger-eating moron, pick it up. But you're going to get that support, whether it's MGTOW.com, the Turd Flinging Monkey Discord service, the Manosphere in general. Don't worry about as much. Focus on where you're going. Don't focus on the pain, because if you focus on the pain will get worse and you'll never get out of it. But if you focus on where you're going and where you're moving, that's how you dig yourself out. And that's how men have dug themselves out of issues throughout life, through war, through famine, through the Great Depression in 1929, and all these other trials and tribulations. And they've been able to have families, and they've been able to have good, fulfilling lives afterwards, with the understanding that sometimes shit happens and you just got to work through it. Keymaster, did you want to? I'm done ranting. Did you want to monologue on that a little bit?
No, you did. No.
Okay.
Are there any more
All
questions?
right. Let me take a look here. DDJ, What if you keep your girlfriend in her country and only and never take her to the U.S.? Are there still risks? Well, absolutely there are. Like, let's say, I don't know, let's say I won the lottery and I decided to go to the UK. Now I'm subject to the UK's divorce rape laws. Or, I don't know, if I went to South America, for example, I have to look at those laws, those gynocentric laws that are there. The United States is fantastic because it's got the Second Amendment right to bear arms, so we don't put up with a lot of shit. But it also has the First Amendment right to freedom of speech, and we don't have laws against against hate speech. Hate speech isn't even recognized. Whereas all these other countries, they have laws against hate speech that basically says even if she's mentally unstable, if she's offended, it's hate speech and you can go to jail for it. It's retarded. So I think that, frankly, feminism has killed the male-female social contract. And I say this all the time, and it's not hyperbole, it's not a jingle, it's the truth. And if you don't believe me, read my book, watch some of my videos, watch Turd Flinging Monkeys videos, go to MGTOW.com, look at observable reality. This information is freely available to those willing to accept the truth as it is, as opposed to how they want it to be. All right. Let's go to the next question here. Forgotten Path. Hey, DDJ, what's your favorite video games? If you play video games, if not, what is your favorite book other than your own? And don't be a shill kappa. Okay. Right now, my favorite video game is Ghost Recon Wildlands. I really like it because I like the stealth, I like the co-op, and I like the fact that it's open world and the best laid plans can go to shit, and you have to be able to dance and figure that out. And there's some tactical element, and plus, I think that shooting people in the face with large caliber rifles is therapeutic. So, that's my theory there. As far as my favorite book is concerned, I really like the Darth Bane series. It is fantastic, and I like the original Conan books. Both books are fantastic. Both books have red pill knowledge, and they're fantastic. Oh, speaking of which, MGTOW or Keymaster, do you play video games?
Never.
Okay.
Right. I never play video games. I always use my computer as a tool, so I just never ever play them. But I do have to say that I did really enjoy the Mist, Riven, and Exiles, and that's going back 20 years. So
I remember those. Those were good games. They're nice
yes,
problem-solving games.
Loved those. In my opinion, were perfect games. But otherwise, I don't play video games at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream. I'm going to make a couple quick announcements first. If you like this content, definitely feel free to follow me on social media. Obviously I have a Patreon if you want to throw me 25 cents or something. If you're interested in more information as far as MGTOW.com, go sign up. Go check out their website. They're fantastic. They're well established. If you need additional help, if you need support, or you want to reach out to red pill men who are MGTOW, check out MGTOW.com. It is fantastic. And then every Wednesday morning, Pacific Standard Time at about 8 a.m., I co-host the Turd Flinging Monkey Show, or the 420 Show, I should say, where we talk about the news. And then we have the Turd Flinging Monkey Show on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you're interested in any of those things, like you want to be a part of that, reach out to Feeding the Cat on his email. Check out TFM's his YouTube channel for that email address. And if you have any suggestions for videos or things like that, feel free to email me at misandry.happens@gmail.com. And if you disagree with anything I've said and you want to talk about it either on a stream or directly, feel free to email me and we can have that conversation. I'm willing to talk to pretty much anybody, even if there's disagreement, as long as that disagreement is civil and as long as it's issue related. Once it degenerates into ad hominem attacks or things like that, well, I can be the bigger 5-year-old, and I've been known to do that. So with that, I'm going to close the stream. I appreciate everybody who has checked it out today. We've had over 70 people. It's gotten like 75, 76 at one point. So I'm pretty excited about that. This is a new stream. And again, once it gets uploaded to YouTube, like and share if you're into it. And then thanks again. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys have a great day.
You too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.